Chapter 1627. Lu Jie had already completed this year's Radiance 100 sequence ranking. He was ranked 30th. He took back his title as the Heart of the Swarm. Lu Jie was able to rearrange the rankings as soon as he returned, because this was the honor given to heroes by the Radiance Sacred Hall. Back then, Lu Jie was on the verge of death because of the Insect Queen. Even the Bamboo Monarch, who was a Class 5 Creation Master, was unable to heal the Insect Queen that was on the verge of death. Therefore, Lu Jie had no other choice. He then withdrew from the Radiance 100 sequence. Disheartened, Lu Jie began to live an incognito life. Lu Jie's Insect Queen had already recovered. He naturally had to return to the Radiance 100 sequence. Due to Lu Jie's return, this year's Radiance 100 sequence selection was held. Based on previous years, it would undoubtedly be more intense. Originally, there were only 10 members of the 100 sequence who were ranked 91st to 100th to compete with newcomers. However, Lu Jie was ranked 30th, defeating the original 30th place, Lan Tuanquan. As a result, all the members of the 100 sequence who were ranked behind Lan Zhuan were pushed down. The Radiance 100 sequence could only have 100 young prodigies. Therefore, the original 90th place would also have to enter the competition. This meant that there would be 11 original Radiance 100 sequence members. He was going to compete with the newcomers who had passed the selection test for the throne of the Radiance 100 sequence. This increased the competitiveness of this year's selection. Due to the upgrade of the Star Web, the administrator of the Radiance Sacred Hall had become the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was Lu Wenqing who made the decision. The ranking of this year's Radiance 100 sequence would be arranged on Star Web. It could be said that all the members of the 100 sequence had their eyes on him. 1 year later, during the selection of the Radiance Envoys, many people felt that it was impossible for them to become Radiance Envoys. But the position of the Radiant Light Knights still had to be fought for. For this ranking, the 100 sequence members who had been concealing their strength, they were all prepared to reveal their trump cards. He wanted to fight for a higher ranking. This was because there were only the top 30 of the Radiance 100 sequence. Only then could they participate in the selection of the Radiance Envoys and Radiance Knights. Lu Jie had known this before. Therefore, he purposely placed himself at the 30th position. But now, Lu Jie understood that Lin Yuan would be participating in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He wanted to announce his identity as the Moon Empress disciple to the world. Tell the world that Black and Lin Yuan were the same person. Since Lin Yuan was ready to show his true prodigy, he had to show his true prodigy. As Lin Yuan's retainer knight, Lu Jie naturally had to follow him. This time, the Radiance 100 sequences ranking would be held. Lu Jie did not plan to hide his strength like last time. Instead, he planned to try his best to fight for first place. The Radiance 100 sequences number 1. He had always been firmly controlled by a girl. Many of the Radiance 100 sequence members had reached a certain age. He did not have the opportunity to participate in the Radiance Envoy selection. They would often choose to reveal their strength in the year before they retired. These people were the best targets to challenge. She was naturally the Radiance 100 sequences number 1, the titled Fable, Xia Qing. 3 years ago, Xia Qing was less than 20 years old. After passing the selection, he became a Radiance 100 sequence member. Back then, Xia Qing was a dark horse that suddenly appeared. Before Xia Qing appeared, there was no news about Xia Qing on the entire Star Web. In the second year, Xia Qing was ranked 91st. He directly defeated the original first place. That was Li Ang, who was ranked second. He had ascended to the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. At that time, Xia Qing had just ascended to the top. She then requested to change her title. Xia Qing's original title was Black Oxygen, but Xia Qing changed her title to Fable. After changing the title, Xia Qing said one sentence. She said that she must become a Radiance Envoy. The meaning of Xia Qing's title was self-evident. It was for the sake of Fable. This was big news within the Radiance 100 at that time. Many people were curious about Xia Qing's identity. Even Lu Jie was no exception. Many guild clubs had invited Xia Qing. Li Su was in the Rhine Guild Club, and Long Tao was in the Dragon Gate Guild Club. It could be said that basically all the A-grade guild clubs had looked for Xiaqing. Xiaqing was the number one of the Radiance 100 sequence. Whichever team Xiaqing was in, that team would be a celebrity team. In addition, Xiaqing was strong enough. She was so strong that Liang couldn't even last 20 moves against her. Liang summoned 4 Fays. Xiaqing only summoned 2 of them. Except for special cases like Lu Jie. The other 100 sequence members would normally be able to contract 3 or more Fays. They would also be matched with some source-type life forms. Therefore, Xiaqing didn't use her full strength against Liang. She had achieved a crushing momentum. Lu Jie had been very curious about Xiaqing's identity. Xiaqing wasn't from a veteran faction or a top faction. Otherwise, people from the Radiance 100 sequence who came from a top faction or a veteran faction. It was impossible for them not to recognize Xiaqing. Xiaqing lived in seclusion. Except for the annual 100 sequence ranking, she would only appear occasionally. Usually, she would only occasionally do the missions issued by the Radiance Sacred Hall. At that time, Lu Jie didn't know Xiaqing's identity. After becoming Night Leaning Moon's disciple, Lu Jie knew. Xiaqing was that old man's granddaughter. In this ranking, Lu Jie's eyes were fixed on Xiaqing. He was ready to have a good fight with Xiaqing. In the Radiance Sacred Hall's auditorium, there was a ceremonial platform at the front. At that moment, Lord Wenqing was standing on the ceremonial platform. Below the ceremonial platform were 5 seats. These 5 seats were empty all year round. Only the current Radiance Envoy was qualified to sit there. Behind the 5 chairs was a row of 100 seats. Lu Jie was sitting on the seats. On normal days, the 100 sequence members had their own specific seats. They had to sit above their specific seats. However, every year, there was only one exception. The 100 sequence was about to have a new ranking. On this day, one could sit anywhere. Bai Hao, who was sitting next to Lu Jie, asked, "Jie, why do I feel that you're different from usual today? Why is there such a strong battle intent in your eyes? Are you planning to go up again?" Lu Jie nodded in response. Wang Fan rubbed his palms and said, "Bai Hao, among the 3 of us, you're the lowest. Bai Hao, of the 3 of us, you're the lowest. Bai Hao, among the 3 of us, your ranking is the lowest. Isn't it better to fight in the top 50? Wouldn't it be nice to get into the top 50? Bai Hao felt that the white sequence's ranking. It was not good for him at all. Bai Hao knew very well that his contracted Fei was a little unorthodox. It only paid attention to explosive power and did not have the ability to fight continuously. They only cared about outbursts and didn't have the ability to fight continuously. If he couldn't defeat his opponent, he would become useless. If he couldn't deal with his opponent, he would become useless. With his unorthodox fighting style, it was impossible for him to win. They were not suitable to fight for the position of the Radiant Light Knights or the Radiance Envoy. Chapter 1628. Therefore, Bai Hao did not place much importance on the Radiance 100 sequence ranking. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess was misunderstood because of the Warm Sun Foundation. Bai Hao wasn't able to provide any substantial help. He could only help to make a statement on Star Web. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Bai Hao personally took the field. He was in line with those Black Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddesses streamers. Because of Bai Hao, he had even become a trending topic on the Star Web. However, the next day, the situation took a turn for the worse. Before Bai Hao could rejoice, he discovered something. Since then, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had never livestreamed again. Bai Hao, who had not seen the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's livestream for a few days, was lost in his thoughts. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess faced doubts. How disheartened would he be? Bai Hao really wanted to console the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. However, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess did not reveal any information about herself on the Star Web. Bai Hao wanted to go online and comfort the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, but there was nothing he could do. The Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had publicly said that she knew black. Over the past few days, Bai Hao had even started to look for trouble. He intended to ask for the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's contact information. He could comfort the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess in private. However, the Radiance 100 sequences ranking was right around the corner. Because of that, Bai Hao had no choice but to focus on getting stronger. If he focused on fighting, he might be able to reach the top 50. Others would look for their weaknesses and target them. He also had the ability to knock himself down from his 79th position. 91 to 100 were all rookies who had been selected last year. Among these newcomers, there were quite a few who were rather strong. There were even a few rookies who rushed into the top 50. It wasn't impossible. Although Bai Hao was currently ranked 79th, but underneath him, there were only a dozen or so people who were scapegoats. Most of these people were only 26 or 27 years old. The younger ones were around 23 or 24 years old. Given their age, they were all qualified to fight for the Radiance Envoy selection. Therefore, everyone would use their trump cards to fight. If he did not improve his strength, what if he was defeated? That would be too shameful. Therefore, Bai Hao was prepared to wait for the Radiance 100 sequence test to end. Then he would ask Black face to face. How could he contact the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess? Forget about the top 50. I just want to make it into the top 80. Bai Hao looked at Lu Jie gratefully. Jie, where did you get so much money recently? You lent me 80 million Radiance dollars and gave me a pile of spiritual ingredients that are hard to buy even with money. Do you have any more flowers? Wang Fan chimed in. Jie, I've used the spirit materials you gave me. I didn't spend the money. You were able to rank in the top 30 before. This time, try to fight your way up. I can definitely try to fight for the position of Radiance Envoy. You have a lot more potential than me and Bai Hao. Bai Hao and I were thinking of giving you all of our resources, Yang Qi said. You're the one who's supposed to improve yourself. Before Lu Jie met Lin Yuan, he had always been exchanging resources with Wang Fan and Bai Hao. As long as one of the three of them needed money, they would not be able to afford it. The other two would not be stingy. Lu Jie had received a lot of help from Wang Fan and Bai Hao. Otherwise, the Insect Queen's gold rank skill would not have been able to obtain the lightning-gathering moths. It was an exceptionally rare insect species Fei. Lu Jie became Lin Yuan's retainer. He could not use Lin Yuan's resources to help Bai Hao and Wang Fan. However, after Lu Jie became Night Leaning Moon's disciple, Night Leaning Moon gave Lu Jie a lot of resources. The resources that Lu Jie used to improve his strength. Lin Yuan and Night Leaning Moon were all prepared. Therefore, Lu Jie gave the resources at hand to Wang Fan and Bai Hao half a month ago. They were all given to Wang Fan and Bai Hao to help his two good brothers, Wang Fan and Bai Hao, improve their strength. Upon hearing Wang Fan and Bai Hao's concern for him, Lu Jie smiled. My current strength no longer needs resources to improve. It's the right thing for you two to use these resources to improve your strength. You too should use these resources to increase your strength. That's the most important thing. He was so confident that he was even a little conceited. What did it mean that he did not need resources to improve his strength? Wang Fan and Bai Hao had not seen the Insect Queen for a long time. Could it be that the Insect Queen's strength had improved to Diamond X/Fantasy V? At the thought of this, Wang Fan and Bai Hao hurriedly shook their heads. This kind of strength was the legendary standard of His Holiness's disciple. Lu Jie's Insect Queen had only recovered half a year ago. How could its strength improve so quickly? At that moment, Su, who was sitting in the back seat, spoke. Lu Jie, Black has always been teaming up with you in those few 2v2 Celestial Stairway duels. You and Black should know each other. Upon hearing that, Lu Jie turned to look at Su and nodded. Lu Jie knew Su, Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, Fong Duo, and the others. He had experienced life and death with Lin Yuan in the Dimensional Rift. They were all Lin Yuan's friends. That's right, I know Black. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Su patted Lu Jie's shoulder. He asked, If you know Black, do you know what kind of Fey Black's eight-tailed spirit cat is? When I killed the Abyss demons with Black previously, Black used two plant species Feys. One for healing, and the other for spreading out a sea of flowers with area of effect lethality. That's right. There's also a source-type life form that can control sand for defense. I don't see Black having a cat fae either. Su's words instantly attracted the attention of many of the surrounding 100 sequence members. The duel between Black and Lu Shuang. The Radiance 100 sequence members had basically seen it. None of them could see the 8-tailed spirit cat image behind Black. Lu Shuang had 2 Diamond X/Fantasy 4 walking witch snakes. One was a Diamond X/Fantasy V exquisite rhinoceros deer. Such fae equipment and strength. It was far beyond the Radiance 100 sequence's combat level. Even if everyone was hiding their strength, their true strength would definitely not reach Lu Shuang's standard. The Radiance 100 sequence members were all below 30 years old. Lu Shuang was already 37 or 38 years old. With such a huge age difference, putting them together, there was really nothing to compare. In another 7 or 8 years, the current 100 sequence members, they would basically reach Lu Shuang's strength. They might even be stronger than Lu Shuang. In the duel at the Star Web Starlight Duel Arena, Black had defeated Lu Shuang using an unknown method. Black's performance and strength, this caused the Radiance 100 sequence group to be in an uproar. In everyone's opinion, Black was definitely a Radiance 100 sequence member. In the future, Black would also be added to the group by His Holiness Wen Cheng. Quite a number of people were already secretly discussing it in the group. Black Radiance 100 sequence's title. Su's question left Lu Jie dumbfounded. Chapter 1629. During this period of time, Lu Jie had been in seclusion in the land of spirit suppression. After returning, he discussed matters with Lin Yuan, Gao Feng, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and An He. After the discussion, they received a summons from Wen City. They arrived at the Radiance Sacred Hall. Lu Jie didn't even have time to eat or drink during the 2 weeks he was in seclusion. Every time he ate, Lu Jie would eat at the same speed as when he was training in the wilderness. He finished his meal in 3 minutes. It was all for the sake of increasing his strength as much as possible. Thus, he did not have the time to log into the Star Web to understand the latest developments. Therefore, Lu Jie was confused by Su's question. An 8-tailed civet? Could it be that someone who was always sticking to Lin Yuan's embrace and acting like a spoiled child was smart? Lu Jie was not a creation master. He couldn't see the Fae's abilities and exclusive skills. However, one could see the Fae's grade. In Lu Jie's memory, the last time he saw Genius was when Lu Jie saw Genius. Genius was a Diamond I/Fantasy 3 Fae. Furthermore, Genius had used its exclusive skill, Interconnection Tail, on Lu Jie. Lu Jie treated Genius as a support-type Fae. Lu Jie had heard Wang Fan mention the duel between Black and Lu Shuang. Lu Jie had encountered Lu Shuang during the Sky Stairway duel. And that was before Lu Jie's Insect Queen's origin was damaged. At that time, Lu Shuang was not as powerful as she was now. Lu Jie relied on his Insect Queen to fight, so he was good at positional warfare. However, the Celestial Stairway duels were randomized. There was no cover. This made the battle extremely disadvantageous for the Earth battle. Lu Jie lost to Lu Shuang. He understood Lu Shuang's exquisite rhinoceros deer and the 2 walking witch snakes. Relying on the low witch snake as a sacrifice to fight, how shameless was that? If it wasn't for the fact that they were in the Radiance Sacred Hall right now, after listening to Wang Fan talk about the battle between Black and Lu Shuang, Lu Jie could not wait to log into Star Web. He wanted to take a look at Lin Yuan's duel. Genius was a support-type Fae. Lu Jie heard Genius block Lu Shuang's all-out attack. He was completely dumbfounded. Lu Jie realized that he really did not understand Lin Yuan. He even had confidence in his own intelligence. I don't really understand him. Naturally, he couldn't tell Su what he didn't know. Furthermore, it was related to the details of Lin Yuan's Fae. It was impossible for Lu Jie to expose it. Fortunately, Su was just asking. Had he seen Black's feline Fae before? Lu Jie nodded and said, Black does have a cat species Fae called Genius. Lu Jie's words instantly piqued the interest of the others. If it wasn't for His Majesty Wen Cheng standing on the stage, The other Radiance 100 sequence members would probably have to sit next to Lu Jie. Just when everyone thought Lu Jie would continue speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. Unexpectedly, Lu Jie did not mention Black's eight-tailed civet again. Shisu's eyes widened as he thought to himself, "Big brother, you only told us this cat phase name? What's the use of knowing that it's smart? What about skills? What about exclusive skills? What we want to know is, what did it rely on to block Lu Shuang's all-out attack?" Liang, who was sitting next to Shisu, was also very curious. Just as he was about to ask. At this moment, a short-haired girl wearing silver half-body armor walked in. After the woman came in, everyone's gaze froze for a moment, no matter what topic they were discussing just now. At this moment, the girl wearing half-body armor walked in. She immediately became the focus of the audience. Liang looked at the girl wearing half-body armor with fear in his eyes. He dispelled his curiosity about Black. Liang still remembered when he fought with this girl 3 years ago. When he was 22 years old, he had beaten up a 19-year-old girl. It was as if he was being played by this 19-year-old girl. He did not have the slightest strength to fight back. That battle had deeply hurt Liang's self-esteem. Liang had trained hard for 3 years. It was to be able to be in the Radiance 100 sequence 1 year before the Radiance Envoy selection. He wanted to compete with this girl again. Liang did not want to wash away his shame. He just wanted to take a look. In the past 3 years, Yi Zichen had been in a daze. Did the gap between him and this girl become wider? Long Tao scurried over a few positions. He asked Lu Jie through Bai Hao. Each of us has 3 chances to challenge. After the last challenge chance is used, the order is basically determined. If you want to change the order, you can only be challenged. You rush forward. Why don't I challenge you first? You defeat me and stand in my position. This way, you can save a challenge chance. If you fight forward, you can also challenge a few more times. The Radiance 100 sequence had many rules. Those at the top of the sequence could challenge those at the bottom at will. Those at the bottom wanted to challenge those at the top of the sequence. They had to choose an opponent within the top 10. This meant that if you hid your strength too much, you would be ranked after the 60th place. Unless the person in front took the initiative to challenge you. Otherwise, you would have to fight 3 times and win all 3 times. You would not be able to fight in the top 30. However, after failing to challenge someone, you could still choose to continue to challenge. Until the 3 chances were used. It was convenient to make a practical battle plan after understanding the opponent. Long Tao spoke very softly. It was so soft that only Bai Hao and Lu Jie could hear it clearly. Bai Hao had a shocked expression on his face. What did Long Tao mean? Listening to Long Tao's words, it was as if he could not defeat Lu Jie and wanted to pave the way for him. Long Tao was the 3rd in the Radiance 100 sequence. He was from the top faction, Coiled Dragon Valley. He was also the Coiled Dragon Valley's young master. He had never pretended to speak to outsiders and was very sharp-tongued. He was an old hermaphrodite. He only smiled at his teammates. When did Long Tao become so familiar with Lu Jie? Long Tao seemed to be sure that Lu Jie could defeat him. The Radiance 100 sequence's exclusivity couldn't be too obvious. Otherwise, when City wouldn't agree. During the gathering at Zhong Zai's, Long Tao, Li Xian, Gao Feng, Zhong Zai, Gu Lang and the others. They already knew Lu Jie's identity as the Night Empress disciple. That Nix assembly was held for Lu Jie. Next year was the Radiance Envoy selection. At such a time, everyone had to rush forward. Lu Jie was no exception. Lu Jie nodded and said, "Thank you. Thank you very much. I really want to charge forward." While speaking, Lu Jie's gaze landed on Xiaqing. Lu Jie's eyes were immediately filled with astonishment as soon as he saw it. Lu Jie saw that Zhao Xiaochun had been there for some time. He sat next to Xiaqing. He handed Xiaqing a braised pig trotter. On Zhao Xiaochun's side, she was holding the pig trotter. She was gnawing on it. She seemed to be enjoying it. Chapter 1630. Not only did Xiaqing not refuse Zhao Xiaochun, she took the pig trotters that Zhao Xiaochun handed over without hesitation. She ate with Zhao Xiaochun. Compared to Zhao Xiaochun, Xiaqing ate very elegantly. But the speed of eating was not slow at all. At this moment he suddenly thought of a rumor. Zhao Xiaochun was the nightmare of all self-service hotels. When going out to sweep, occasionally she would bring a wingman. Xiaqing wouldn't be Zhao Xiaochun's wingman, right? In an instant, Xiaqing's character in the eyes of the Radiance 100 sequence members collapsed. Only Su had a calm face. Since opening the Muxiang Pavilion, Su was equivalent to Zhao Xiaochun. Zhao Xiaochun no longer went out to sweep other restaurants. Instead, she ate and drank in the Muxiang Pavilion every day. Su became a working emperor again for love, earning money to support Zhao Xiaochun. During this time, Su found out. Every week, Zhao Xiaochun would call Xiaqing to eat at the Muxiang Pavilion. After talking about boyfriend and girlfriend with Zhao Xiaochun, Su learned that Zhao Xiaochun ate non-stop every day. It was because she had contracted a source-type life form. Zhao Xiaochun eating was a way to improve the strength of source-type life forms. Xiaqing was obviously the same. When Xiaqing was eating in the Muxiang Pavilion, once, in Xiaqing's body, a strange sound came faintly. This sound was somewhat like the low moan of some kind of beast. But in those few battles of Xiaqing's, Su didn't find out that Xiaqing summoned a beast-type fey that could make such a low moan. Xiaqing hit it so deeply. Lu Wenqing stood on the stage. He looked at the 100 geniuses of the younger generation of the Radiance 100 sequence. His face was full of pride. In the auditorium, on a big bronze bell, the needle pointed to 12, and the big bronze bell was suddenly rung. All the Radiance 100 sequence members straightened their backs with solemn eyes. They looked at Lu Wenqing. At this moment, the Radiance 100 sequence ranking. It was time to officially start. Lu Wenqing said loudly. In the past years, the ranking was all carried out in the arena. For many people, this fighting method can't be considered fair. The ranking this time will be conducted on the Star Web. The Star Web ranking battle is still a one-on-one competition. It's still not very friendly to healing class and support class spirit chi professionals. However, the battlefield has expanded to 1 square kilometer. Within this 1 square kilometer area, there are 6 types of terrains: grassland, mountains, rivers, basins, forests, and deserts. The terrain is also uneven. Fighting in this kind of arena will allow you to fully display your individual combat style. In the ranking tournament in the past years, you guys always held back when you fought. This time, it's on Star Web. You don't have to worry about anything. Have a good fight. Hearing His Holiness Wenqing's words, the members of the 100 sequence sitting below the stage were stunned. Most of them sucked in a cold breath. In fact, everyone had already guessed it. This year's Radiance 100 sequence ranking would be conducted on Star Web. After the Star Web was updated, the members of the 100 sequence had either reached the celestial stairway on Star Web, or they would invite a few teammates to fight against each other. The pain was intense, and he experienced the feeling of death a few times. This kind of pain pulls the experience of death. Compared to the original Heaven Stairway duel, there was no pain to experience death. They were two completely different things. When the Radiance 100 sequence members went out to do missions, the Radiance 100 sequence members suddenly appeared. However, there were always injuries and even brushes with death. But in the end, they had never truly died. The feeling of death experienced people. No one wanted to recall it. At that moment, Lu Wenqing changed the topic. Next February, the Radiance Envoys will be selected. The new ranking of the 100 sequence will be held in March. Therefore, this ranking is your last chance. So, this time show us all what you've got. Let this old man see if you are worthy of the title of Radiance 100. As he spoke, Lu Wenqing's gaze shifted. He focused on Xiaqing and Lu Jie. After Xiaqing rang the bronze bell, he had already finished the braised pig trotters. The bones were stored in the diamond fey storage box. Zhao Xiaochun, on the other hand, had a braised pig trotter in her mouth. His expression was solemn. She did not even chew the tendon in her mouth. She looked as though she was waiting for him to finish speaking and chewing. Upon seeing this, Lu Wenqing shook his head helplessly and said, "Zhao Xiaochun, your contracted source-type life form is rather special. If you don't eat enough, you will always be in a state of hunger. I'll allow you to finish this pig trotter first." Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun's face turned red. She quickly kept the pig trotter in her mouth. Even if the source-type life form in her body caused trouble and starved her to death, Zhao Xiaochun could not possibly chew on the pig trotters while Lu Wenqing was speaking. Lu Wenqing's speech just now. It made all the 100 sequence members present who had thoughts about the Radiance envoys. The flames of war in their hearts burned. Even if they knew that they could not become a Radiance envoy, they had to fight for the position of the Radiance Light Knight Order. One had to know that becoming a member of the Radiance Light Knight Order, the treatment they received and the resources they poured into them. The treatment and the resources they received were completely different from becoming a 100 sequence member. More importantly, becoming a member of the Radiance Light Knight Order. It was an honor. 2 years later, the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. The bet would be settled at the 10,000 Nations Conference. The Radiance envoys and the members of the Radiance Light Knight Order were all substitutes. But even as substitutes, everyone wanted to do their part for Radiance. Lu Wenqing looked at the group of 100 sequence members who were burning with fighting spirit and said, "Now, take out your Star Web card and move to the Radiance Sacred Hall on Star Web. Then start from Xiaqing, who is ranked first. Challenge from the front to the back." Inside the Radiance Sacred Hall on Star Web, Xiaqing stood up and said, "I give up 3 chances to challenge." This way of challenging from the front to the back, it could give more opportunities to the 100 sequence members who were ranked lower. It was also this way. All the Radiance 100 sequence members who were eliminated did not have the slightest complaint, because they were eliminated because they were really noobs. In the end, they picked 3 opponents who were easy to deal with. They could not beat them. It was impossible to find a reason. After Xiaqing gave up the chance, Li Ong stood up. He said to Lu Wenqing, "Lu Wenqing, I request to challenge Xiaqing, who is ranked first in the Radiance 100 sequence." This had been repeated every year for the past 3 years. Everyone was already used to it. At that moment, everyone saw Li Ong walk to Xiaqing's side. He spoke in an abnormally serious tone. Chapter 1631. This is my trump card. I couldn't use it when I was fighting in the arena. Baidu search. However, this time, the Radiance 100 sequences ranking battle will be held on Star Web. I can use my trump card without hesitation. Hearing Li Ang's words, the expression on Xiaqing's face did not change. But Shi Su was Li Ang's teammate. Upon hearing Li Ang's words, his heart skipped a beat. Then a smile appeared on his face. "Li Ang, you can finally use that move." Shi Su and Li Ang were Radiance 100 sequence members. Furthermore, he was a main member of the A-ranked guild club, the Rhine Guild Club. They were very clear about each other's trump cards. Li Ang's words piqued the interest of many Radiance 100 sequence members present. Although Li Ang was defeated by Xiaqing, however, Li Ang had been sitting firmly on the throne of the Radiance 100 sequence too. During this period, many people challenged Li Ang, but no one had truly defeated Li Ang. Therefore, Li Ang challenged Xiaqing. Every year, everyone would treat it as an exhibition match. This year was no exception. However, there was one person who was different from the rest. This person was none other than Lu Jie. 2 years ago, Lu Jie's insect queen was on the verge of death. He then withdrew from the Radiance 100 sequence. Therefore, the battle between Li Ang and Xiaqing in the past 2 years had been rather intense. Even Lu Jie had missed it. Lu Jie's goal was Xiaqing. However, he didn't know anything about Xiaqing. If only he could see the duel between Xiaqing and Li Ang. The more means Li Ang used, the more trump cards he could force out of Xiaqing. After understanding Xiaqing, it would be more convenient for Lu Jie to fight against Xiaqing. Lu Jie, who was an expert in positional warfare, was on the battlefield. He had to be able to use the strategy effectively. Baidu search Longtime knew that. That was why he would rather reach the 30th position before moving up. He also wanted to give Lu Jie another chance. Otherwise, Lu Jie would only be able to choose his opponent from the top 10. He went all the way to the 10th place, wanting to fight Xiaqing. There was only one chance left. But now, if Lu Jie were to sit in his third position, it would be impossible for him to do so. There were a total of 3 chances to use it. He would use any chance to defeat Xiaqing. Lu Jie was able to sit on the Radiance 100 Sequences #1 throne. This way, even if Lu Jie didn't know Xiaqing, he could also force out Xiaqing's means through his continuous challenges. Summing up a lesson, Liang saw that Xiaqing was indifferent. He took a deep breath and said, "I don't think you used your full strength in the past. I hope you can be more serious this year." Upon hearing this, Xiaqing looked up at Liang and said, "Your strength is not enough for me to use my full strength. When I fought you in the past, I didn't even summon my main Fei. In this duel, I hope that you will only challenge me once. Don't challenge it 3 times in a row like last year. This year, I won't hide my strength anymore. I'll let you clearly see the gap between us." Xiaqing's voice was a little cold, but he was not arrogant at all. Xiaqing's statement did not arouse Liang and the other members of the 100 Sequence. He was just surprised by Xiaqing's strength. It turned out that Xiaqing and Liang were fighting before. He also had to face challenges from the members of the 100 Sequence who had reached the age limit and were about to retire. He hadn't even used his main Fei. Not using the main Fei to fight was no longer as simple as hiding one's strength. It was just that their strengths were not on the same level at all. Liang said frankly, "If you can make me lose wholeheartedly in the first match, then I won't challenge you a second or a third time. I will forfeit the remaining 2 challenges." When Xiaqing heard this, the corners of her mouth hooked up. "It's a deal." Then, under Lu Wenqing's guidance, he arrived at the test space. Since entering the examination venue was a random teleportation, unable to determine the location, unexpectedly, both Liang and Xiaqing were teleported to the basin. An area of 1 square kilometer was neither big nor small. It was very rare for them to meet each other at the beginning of the teleportation. Fortunately, Liang was a power offense-type spirit chi professional. When fighting, there was no need to prepare. Liang waved his hand and 3 elemental faceless phantoms appeared. They appeared around Liang. Next, a creature with 3 tails appeared. A long-eared squirrel with 3 tails of 3 different colors. It appeared in Liang's arms. Liang was average-looking and had been learning from Shi Su how to pick up girls. Therefore, he grew a big beard. It made his ordinary appearance look a little sloppy. However, after Liang became serious, his firm eyes gave Liang a different kind of charm out of nowhere. Lu Jie knew Liang's Fei combination. It was obvious that Liang had not shown his trump card yet. Liang had contracted 3 elemental source-type life forms. However, these 3 elemental source-type life forms were nurtured by Liang. They could not be compared to Lin Yuan's source sand, Zhong Zhe's source fire, and Wen Yu's source paper. Liang could not get that much pure elemental energy. He could not put all his resources into these 3 elemental source-type life forms. Liang used the simplest method to induce these 3 elemental source-type life forms. He used spiritual-type spiritual ingredients and his own blood to induce them. He focused the potential of the elemental source-type life forms on their consciousness. Liang's faceless wind elemental body, faceless water elemental body, and faceless thunder elemental body. Each of them could release high-frequency elemental energy attacks. They could even change the terrain. As for the little squirrel in Liang's arms, it was the main Fei that Liang had always displayed, the 3 Mystic Flood Rat. The 3 Mystic Flood Rat was also a spell machine gun. These 3 tails stored a massive amount of elemental energy. They cooperated with the 3 faceless elemental bodies to carry out elemental energy attacks. The firepower could be poured out for at least 3 hours. Just as Liang was about to summon his trump card, Xiaqing waved her hand and summoned a huge frog that was half red and half blue. This frog was as big as a small building. On both sides of the giant frog's two-colored body were fine airflow and flame patterns. It was as if the airflow was about to burn. Xiaoqing had never summoned this frog species Fey before. Before Liang summoned his trump card, Xiaoqing shouted, "Oxygen absorption frog, use oxygen flow incineration." Oxygen absorption frog, use oxygen flow incineration. Upon hearing Xiaoqing's instructions, this two-colored giant frog opened its mouth. It took a deep breath. The surrounding airflow seemed to be pushed by a mighty force. It quickly entered the oxygen absorption frog's mouth. Immediately after, the airflow patterns on the oxygen absorption frog's body drifted away. As the airflow patterns drifted away, the flame patterns also jumped rapidly. Black flames ignited on the oxygen absorption frog's body. Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1632. Immediately after, Liang discovered. He couldn't breathe. Or rather, no matter how hard he breathed, the tip of his nose couldn't smell any oxygen. Liang immediately knew that after Xiaoqing's main Fei used its ability, it sucked away all the oxygen in the space and burned it. What Liang had to do now was to separate the space on his side, so that the airflow on his side couldn't pour into the giant frog's mouth. In this way, the air behind him would flow over. He would be able to absorb oxygen. Liang ordered, 3 black torrent rat, you guide the 3 of them and prop up an elemental barrier. The 3 black torrent rat heard Liang's command. 3 elemental energy walls immediately appeared in front of Liang. At this moment, Liang didn't notice it at all. The moment the elemental walls rose, the oxygen-collapsing frog's eyes turned and stopped inhaling. Suddenly, the black flames on the surface of the oxygen-collapsing frog's body burned a little more fiercely. As the black flames burned, it caused the air to be filled with viscous, paint-like ripples. The Star Web's battle arena completely simulated the main world's sense of space. This viscous feeling was caused by the burning of space. It was a sign of impending collapse. Long Tao, who was watching the duel between Liang and Xiaoqing, spoke with difficulty. This oxygen-collapsing frog's strength is Diamond X/Fantasy V. Liang's 3 faceless elemental bodies. One of them is Diamond V/Fantasy 3. The other one is Diamond 4/Legend. The 3 black torrent rat's strength has been promoted to Diamond 7/Fantasy 3. However, each small quality level of a fantasy breed Fey is equivalent to 3 to 4 small grades. The combat method used by this oxygen-collapsing frog is also related to elemental energy, the influence caused by the grade difference between elemental Feys. In terms of combat power, it plays a decisive factor. Even if Liang has a trump card, he can't beat a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fei. What is Xiaoqing's identity? While Long Tao was sighing, Liang had already summoned a new Fei. A white-haired fairy source-type life form with 2 pairs of wings appeared on Liang's shoulder. After this white-haired fairy source-type life form appeared, immediately under Liang's command, he used himself as the main body. He fused with the 3 faceless elemental bodies. The white-haired fairy source-type life form had appeared. It immediately attracted the attention of the other Radiance 100 sequence members. Fairies with 2 pairs of wings were also 4-winged fairies. 4-winged demons were rare. Everyone knew that Liang would definitely use his trump card in the battle with Xiaoqing. Everyone was waiting for Liang's trump card. It turned out that Liang's trump card was a Diamond 8/Fantasy 4 4-winged fairy. Many of them looked at Lu Jie. Lu Jie's insect queen was a 4-winged demon. Long Tao was not the only creation master in the Radiance 100 sequence. At this moment, Brave Lion Leo, who was ranked 7th, spoke. Liang actually contracted a fairy source-type life form, an elemental puppet. If I use this elemental puppet to fuse with 3 faceless elemental bodies, go and absorb the elemental energy in the 3 profound torrent rat's body. His attack will definitely reach the standard of a Diamond X/Fantasy V. Upon hearing that, Lu Jie shook his head gently. Any phase strength reached Diamond X/Fantasy V. Every attack with all its strength. It was enough to be called a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey. A Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey could hit dozens of times with all its strength before its energy was exhausted. The elemental puppet could fuse with faceless elemental bodies. It would definitely not be able to hit 5 times before its energy was exhausted. Li Ang's trump card was in front of Xia Qing's oxygen absorption frog. He did not know if it was his main Fey or not. Li Ang's trump card was in front of Xia Qing's oxygen absorption frog. There was no way to fight at all. Moreover, Xia Qing was that old man's granddaughter. As long as it was a contracted Fey, it must have the ability to fight above its rank. Therefore, Li Ang wanted to rely on the elemental puppet to exchange a few moves with Xia Qing's oxygen absorption frog. It also depended on whether Xia Qing was willing to give Li Ang a chance. The fairy source-type life form, the elemental puppet, had now fused with 3 faceless elemental bodies. Its body showed the colors of the 3 elements, water, wind, and thunder. His originally skinny body was now as fat as a balloon that was filled with air. The elemental puppet did not stop absorbing elemental energy. The 3 profound torrent rat opened the restriction on its tail. A large amount of elemental energy was also absorbed into the elemental puppet's body. Just when Li Ang was about to remove the elemental wall and confront Xia Qing head-on. However, he did not know that the huge frog with raging black flames on its body. It had long been standing at the other end of the elemental wall. The black flames on its body were the airflow patterns on its body. They turned into hundreds of long and narrow flame whips. These flame whips gathered in midair and kept wandering. The viscous space was burned to the point that it looked like it was made of white glue. A few drops of ink were dripping in, but the ink was reluctant to disperse. This scene was like that of a demon king. He could only watch helplessly as the warrior became stronger. But it never made a move to stop the warrior from becoming stronger. That was because the Demon King had absolute confidence. As soon as the elemental wall dissipated, Li Ang was stunned by the scene in front of him. However, Xia Qing did not immediately instruct the oxygen absorption frog to attack. Instead, she spoke to Li Ang. So far, I have only let the oxygen absorption frog use one skill. You hit your strongest blow. You will see the gap after you hit it. Li Ang knew that he could not beat Xia Qing. But Xia Qing's words aroused Li Ang's self-esteem. Li Ang said angrily, "Elemental puppet. Use the exclusive skill elemental amplification. Elemental tremor. Then hit the elemental energy through the skill elemental vortex." After receiving Li Ang's instructions, the 4 wings behind the elemental puppet flapped quickly. A huge 3-colored vortex appeared around the elemental puppet's body, which was originally fat like a ball. After this vortex materialized, 4-winged fairy's source-type life form, elemental puppet. It immediately changed from a chubby man to a thin man. It fell to the ground powerlessly. Li Ang looked at Xia Qing and said, "This is my strongest blow." Upon hearing this, Xia Qing commanded softly, "Oxygen absorption frog, oxygen accumulation frog croak." The oxygen absorption frog wanted to use the long whip condensed by the black flames to fight against this huge vortex. But after hearing Xia Qing's instructions, the oxygen absorption frog dispelled its original intention to fight, and then its throat squirmed quickly, accompanied by the frog's croak. The next scene made the Radiance 100 sequence members watching the battle all widen their eyes. Chapter 1633. Everyone saw Li Ang controlling the fairy source-type life form, the elemental puppet, to gather all the elemental energy. The huge 3-colored vortex formed instantly collapsed. The elemental energy in the vortex was like wood that had come into contact with fire. It burned violently. Li Ang originally wanted to use the elemental energy in this vortex. He wanted to test out his full-strength attack. The strength gap between him and Xia Qing. But now, there was no way to test it. Looking at the shocked expression on Li Ang's face, Xia Qing said, "The oxygen absorption frog's ability, the oxygen accumulation frog's cry, can quickly gather oxygen in the air. high-purity oxygen and elemental energy through the high-frequency vibration of the frog's cry. It can make the elemental energy burn immediately. It can be said that the oxygen absorption frog's existence itself just restrains your fighting style. I don't want to attack my companions. Give up. Liang was silent for a long time. Then he took a deep look at Xiaqing. He raised his left fist and gave up. If it wasn't necessary, Liang was not willing to attack his companions. Therefore, Liang understood the meaning of Xiaqing's words. However, Liang needed to digest it now. He couldn't beat the non-main Fey that Xiaqing summoned previously. He didn't know if the oxygen absorption frog was Xiaqing's main Fey. But after the oxygen absorption frog appeared, he didn't even have the ability to fight back. This could no longer be described as a gap. After Liang left the test space, he said to Lu Wenqing, "Your Holiness, I give up the next challenge opportunity." After saying that, Liang sat in his seat. He looked a little decadent. Sure Su didn't know how to comfort Liang. Lu Wenqing glanced at Xiaqing and said, "Xiaqing, it's already this time. Xiaqing, it's already at this time. There's no need to hide your identity anymore. Tell Liang about your identity so that he won't be so depressed." Xiaqing didn't directly say her identity. Instead, she said to Liang, "My celestial stairway has already reached the sanctuary rank 3 years ago. It's normal for you to not be my match. If you can become a member of the Radiant Light Knights, a large number of Creation Master's resources will pour into you, and you don't need to obtain resources yourself. At that time, the strength of all your Fays will have a qualitative improvement. Your 3 faceless elemental bodies nurtured from elemental source-type items were too impatient and didn't have enough resources. As a result, the 3 elemental source-type life forms were unable to display their full strength. When you have a high concentration of elemental energy, your combat ability will at least double. Lu Wenqing knew that Xiaqing had always been like this. "I like to speak my mind." He wouldn't hide his thoughts. His original intention was to let Xiaqing comfort Liang. As a result, it was equivalent to Xiaqing teaching Liang a lesson. Liang heard Wenqing's words. He knew in his heart that Xiaqing must have an extraordinary identity. He was able to reach the Sanctuary Division 3 years ago. They should be Her Majesty's disciple or relative. If that was the case, there was indeed nothing for him to compete with. Originally, Liang still had the thought of fighting for the Radiance Envoy position. But now, Liang had already changed his mind. His focus was entirely on the selection of the Radiant Light Knights. It was just as Xiaqing had said. After becoming a member of the Radiant Light Knights, he would usher in a metamorphosis. The battle between Xiaqing and Liang had imperceptibly suppressed many people's ambitions. Liang revealed his trump card. He struck out with the full-powered attack of a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fey. Such strength was already the upper limit of the Radiance 100 sequence members. Liang gave up the next 2 challenge opportunities. Next was Long Tao's turn. Everyone thought that Long Tao would also challenge Xiaqing. Then he would challenge Liang. Long Tao had been concealing his strength and biding his time for the past few years. He never challenged others. It was obvious that he was holding back some big move. Liang came from a veteran faction, while Long Tao came from a top faction. The Coiled Dragon Valley had a large number of Creation Master resources. In addition, Long Tao was originally a Class 3 Creation Master. Therefore, the Creation Master resources that Long Tao could obtain would definitely be stronger than Liang. Moreover, there were faint rumors recently. It was unknown why the Whale Ocean trade. It was surrounded by the Spirit Guards. It had already been removed from the top 3 factions. A few days ago, Coiling Dragon Valley reported that the old Patriarch's main spirit item had successfully become Undying. There were already many people who saw the Coiling Dragon Valley as one of the 3 new top forces. They filled the gap in the Whale Ocean trade. Everyone was looking forward to Long Tao's display of strength. But in the end, everyone heard Long Tao speak. "I want to challenge Lu Jie." Hearing Long Tao's words, Lu Wenqing's face changed. A look of interest immediately appeared on his face. Lu Wenqing had seen Lu Jie's battle style at the Nyx Assembly. Using an insect-type carcinoma Fey to battle was a refreshing experience for Lu Wenxing. It could be said that this fighting style was very suitable for Lu Jie's title, the Heart of the Swarm. Lu Wenxing, after the Evernight assembly ended. He even specifically asked Night Leaning Moon about Lu Jie's training. Night Leaning Moon was not stingy in voicing her thoughts. Night Leaning Moon came up with the ultimate weapon plan for Lu Jie. Lu Wenxing sucked in a breath of cold air. A spirit chi professional was using dozens of Diamond X/Legend insect-type cancer phase to fight. Just the thought of it was terrifying. As long as Lu Jie was given enough time to hide, he would be able to escape. Through the insect-type cancer phase that he controlled, it was not impossible for them to destroy an entire continent. When facing a disaster caused by the insect-type cancer phase, no matter how strong the individual was, sometimes they were unable to turn the tide. If there were any signs of trouble, they would kill it. It was very easy to kill it. But when the situation developed and expanded to the size of a large city, in order to ensure the safety of the citizens in the city, Her Majesty was unable to use large-scale killing methods. Her Majesty was basically defending against the cancer phase. It had always been an unsolvable problem. However, between the cancer phase, they were usually able to restrain each other. For example, back then, the insect-type cancer phase, sawtooth devour ants and poison dust moths, had appeared in Golden Edge City. These two insect-type cancer phase were competing against each other, keeping each other in check. Only then did Chef Supreme have the opportunity to resolve this catastrophe. Lu Jie controlled so many insect-type cancer phase. He could create natural disasters and save natural disasters at the same time. All of this depended on Lu Jie's thoughts. Hence, for Lu Jie, Lu Wenxing felt that the most important thing was not strength but temperament. Previously, Lu Jie was able to resist the insect tide alone in Cold Frost City. It was enough to show that Lu Jie's temperament was kind. Chapter 1634. It could be said that Lu Jie's position had become the Radiance sect's top strategic-level resource. Long Tao and Lu Jie knew each other. That day on the second floor of Yaong Palace, the older generation of the Hui Yao sect had witnessed it. Long Tao must have challenged Lu Jie to do him a favor. Lu Jie's target was not Liang. It must have fallen on Xia Qing. Xia Qing had only used the oxygen absorption frog just now to preserve her strength. However, if Lu Jie were to target them, how could Xia Qing preserve her strength? It seemed like the duel between Lu Jie and Xia Qing today was going to be. It was equivalent to seeing the Radiance Envoy assessment 1 year later. Lu Wenxing asked Lu Jie, "Lu Jie, do you accept Long Tao's challenge?" When the lower-ranked members of the Radiance 100 sequence faced a challenge from the higher-ranked members, the Radiance 100 sequence's members would be able to defeat the lower-ranked members. It was possible to refuse. However, Lu Jie obviously wouldn't refuse Long Tao's challenge. Lu Jie stood up. At that moment, the gazes of the other Radiance 100 sequence members changed. They all looked at Long Tao and Lu Jie in confusion. Did Long Tao and Lu Jie have a grudge against each other? It was clearly Long Tao who had taken the initiative to approach Lu Jie. He was chatting with Lu Jie. It seemed like the two of them were very familiar with each other. As the Radiance 100 sequence number 3, Long Tao went to challenge a few months ago. What was Lu Jie, who had just gained a firm foothold in the Radiance 100 sequence number 30, doing? Long Tao hadn't told anyone about Lu Jie's identity. Zhao Xiaochun and Fang Duo looked at Long Tao. For a moment, he could not figure out Long Tao's thoughts. Xia Qing's eyes were also fixed on Lu Jie. Xia Qing didn't attend the Nix assembly, so she didn't know Lu Jie. He had no idea that Lu Jie wanted to challenge him. However, Xia Qing was still very serious about watching the battle. This was because watching others fight was also a way to strengthen oneself. Wang Fan and Bai Hao, who were present, heard the whole story. The two of them knew that Lu Jie must have encountered some kind of fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, with Long Tao's temperament, it was impossible for him to have interacted with Lu Jie. It was impossible for Lu Jie to provide such a huge amount of resources for the two of them. Lu Wenxing saw Lu Jie nod. Lu Jie and Long Tao were immediately teleported to the assessment venue. Long Tao said to Lu Jie seriously before they were teleported to the examination venue. I want to see the difference in strength between us. I'm going to give it my all. Lu Jie nodded and said, I'll take it seriously. Long Tao had just teleported to the edge of the river bank. There was a river next to it. It was filled with large amounts of water elemental energy. Lu Jie appeared in a dense forest. There were a lot of bunkers in the forest, which was very suitable for positional warfare. It could be said that both of them had been teleported to a terrain that was advantageous to them. Long Tao pondered for a moment and waved his hand. A huge dragon beast about 40 meters long appeared behind Long Tao. This dragon was the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. At present, the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon was still the same as when Lin Yuan had seen it. His body was obviously bigger than before. The Sea King Cretaceous Dragon was a dinosaur. Long Tao was the young master of Coiling Dragon Valley. This Sea King Cretaceous Dragon had been nurtured to the level of Diamond X/Fantasy 4. He needed to upgrade its quality a little. They would be able to reach the limits of the younger generation. Long Tao did not bring the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon to search for Lu Jie's location. Instead, he sent an order to the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. Sea King Cretaceous Dragon, use your exclusive skill, water control, extremity of the sea. As Long Tao gave the command, the water elemental energy in the air quickly condensed. The water elemental energy in the river was also drawn over. The condensed water elemental energy gathered in the air and formed water currents. More and more water currents surrounded the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's body. In the blink of an eye, a huge body of water was formed. This body of water was under the control of the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's exclusive skill, water control. It moved along with the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's movements. This body of water could be said to be the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon's territory. At the same time, the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon used its ability, 8 Dragon Shadows. 8 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon figures appeared in the body of water. Each of them had a shocking aura. 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish, 1 red and 1 blue, appeared in midair. The 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish shook their transparent tentacles. The sky rapidly started to rain. The rain fell in the body of water and constantly increased the body of water. A 7-meter-long shuttle-shaped shark appeared in front of Long Tao. Long Tao jumped directly onto the back of this shuttle-shaped shark. When he first met Lin Yuan, it was a Platinum 6/Epic Reef Dragon Shark. Now, it had become a Diamond X/Legend existence. Obviously, Long Tao was not going to provide the willpower rune for the Reef Dragon Shark. The Radiance 100 sequence members were appalled by Long Tao's lineup. Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. 2 Diamond X/Fantasy 3 Deep Blue Dragon Jellyfish. Just looking at the configuration of phase, Long Tao was stronger than Liang. If they really fought, Long Tao was very likely to defeat Liang. Moreover, Long Tao still had a trump card that he had not used. Long Tao had bought a wave halberd killer whale at the private auction. No one knew to what extent this wave halberd killer whale had been nurtured by Long Tao. Everyone could not help but worry and look at Lu Jie. They did not know how he was going to fight Long Tao with the Insect Queen. Even if there were many kinds of insects summoned by the Insect Queen, they had a complete set of functions. Their individual strength was not strong. As long as they were in the water area supported by the Sea King Cretaceous Dragon. The 8 Dragon Shadow skill formed 8 Sea King Cretaceous Dragon Phantoms, each with 60% of the main body's combat power. They would instantly tear the insect swarm apart. The deep blue dragon jellyfish dominated the sky. Lu Jie's plasma moths and hurricane owlet moths would be affected. Unless Lu Jie's insect queen produced plasma moths and hurricane owlet moths, they would have the strength of Diamond X/Fantasy 3. Only then would it be possible to fight head-on with the 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish. Just as everyone looked at Lu Jie worriedly, Lu Jie raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Immediately after, a huge moth with a light purple body appeared in midair. This moth's abdomen emitted a faint fluorescent light. Its body was covered with fine black patterns. As it flapped its wings, the black patterns on its wings seemed to spread into space. The nearby space could not help but shake. This moth was very strange to many Radiance 100 sequence members who came from ordinary backgrounds. It was very strange. However, to those Radiance 100 sequence members who came from top factions and veteran factions, this moth is too fucking familiar. This moth had once appeared at the Nyx assembly 2 months ago. Back then, this moth was the Chief Guard Spirit Guard's disciple. When it had challenged a group of young members of the top factions, it had summoned a fae. The people who realized this turned to look at Lu Jie in shock. Could it be that Lu Jie was Chief Guard Knight's disciple? Instant Beast Evolution Quotient. Please bookmark this site so that you can read it online the next time there is an update. Read the first complete book in advance. The mobile version is the fastest. Chapter 1635. Thinking of this, the Radiance 100 sequence members from the top factions and veteran factions widened their eyes. They all stared with wide eyes. They carefully stared at the moth. They could finally confirm it. This moth was 100% a dimensional lamp moth of the insect type carcinoma phase. It had been the martial duel between the Chief Guard's disciples. He would fight Lin Yuan and Zhong Zhe in the civil and martial duels. It could be said that it had refreshed the knowledge of the younger generation of the top factions. Among them, Zhong Zhe had used the bloodline of desolation phase and sacred source lifeforms. Even for the younger generation of the top factions and veteran factions, such things were too far away. It was hard to say if the seniors of the veteran factions had sacred source lifeforms. Even among the top factions, there were not many seniors who had sacred source lifeforms. Even among the top factions, there were not many seniors who had sacred source lifeforms. Coupled with the bloodline of desolation phase, one could only become a Radiance envoy. Or one could be chosen by Her Majesty and become her disciple. Only then could one obtain it. While everyone was in awe of Zhong Zhe, they could only be envious. It wasn't just the younger generation that could not understand Lin Yuan's fighting style. Even the family heads of the top factions and veteran factions were confused. He was also confused by what he saw. From Lin Yuan's fighting style, they saw a lot of movement techniques and fighting techniques. How could the current spirit chi professionals have the time to practice such things? Lin Yuan must have used a sacred source lifeform. The female image that appeared behind Lin Yuan was the best proof. But what exactly was the sacred source lifeform's ability? For a moment, no one could figure it out. First, Lin Yuan had an extremely strong elemental immunity. It was an unimaginable single-target combat ability. At the same time, he could conceal his spirit chi professional rank. There was also the sword that had swung out a flock of dark crows. There was no way to explain all of this. As a result, Lu Jie was the one that was the most discussed. He had used insect-type carcinoma phase to fight. Furthermore, every monster trainer's insect species carcinoma phase were at Diamond X/Legend. They had reached the limit of insect-type carcinoma phase. Such a fighting style was unheard of. Back then, the dimensional lamp moth with black patterns on its wings. In an instant, it had shot out 40 shield ladybugs. This made the Radiance 100 sequence members from the top factions and veteran factions feel strange. First, so many insect-type phase had been summoned. Obviously, it was impossible to contract every single one of them. Secondly, one of Lu Jie's insect queen skills was to mass-produce ladybugs. However, no one thought of Lu Jie's identity as Bureau Chief Ye's disciple. But now, Lu Jie and the Chief Guard's disciple of the Spirit Guards didn't have the same status. They had completely fused together. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Besides, ordinary people didn't have the ability to control the dimensional light moth. Instead of summoning the insect queen, Lu Jie summoned the dimensional light moth. He left the insect queen in the dimensional lamp moth's stomach. On one hand, he didn't want to hide his identity anymore. A year later, it would be the Radiance envoy selection. Right now, there was really no need to hide. Lu Jie had already spoken to Night Leaning Moon. He would not fight for the position of the Radiance Envoy. He wanted to be a member of Lin Yuan's Radiant Light Knight Order. In Lu Jie's opinion, this was the best ending for him as a retainer knight. On the other hand, Lin Yuan had given him the cocoon demon embryo before the 100 sequence selection. Lu Jie used it to fuse with the Blade Queen Bee. This was the insect-type carcinoma Fey that had caused the insect queen to mutate. As a result, the Blade Queen Bee had evolved very quickly. After the evolution, the Blade Queen Bee contained a spiritual toxin. It became even more concentrated. By absorbing this concentrated spiritual toxin, the insect queen's bloodline mutated again. It grew a new pair of wings. The current insect queen was already a 6-winged demon. After becoming a 6-winged demon, the insect queen's control over the insect-type carcinoma Fey became stronger. This allowed Lu Jie to command the insect-type carcinoma Fey with greater ease. To fight, the insect queen's evolution into a 6-winged demon was Lu Jie's trump card. It was naturally better to hide a trump card as deeply as possible. Lu Jie's bottom line would be revealed in the battle with Xiaoqing. In short, when the insect queen became a 6-winged demon during the battle with Long Tao, there was really no need to reveal it. After the dimensional light moth was summoned, Lu Jie immediately let the dimensional light moth release 50 shield ladybugs that the insect queen had just produced. The shield ladybugs were the insect queen's main defense. In any situation, they could be Lu Jie's powerful meat shield. The strength of these 50 shield ladybugs. All of them had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy Eye level. The appearance of these 50 Diamond X/Fantasy Eye shield ladybugs shocked the other 100 sequence members. The appearance of these 50 Diamond X/Fantasy Eye shield ladybugs shocked the other 100 sequence members. It also caused Xiaoqing's gaze to suddenly land on Lu Jie. The 50 shield ladybugs opened up the carapace on their backs. They shook the soft wings within the carapace and flew into the sky. Each shield ladybug chose a tree and landed on it. These shield ladybugs that landed on the tree each had a body of flesh and blood. They had the ability to stop the enemy's advance. Lu Jie had too many ways to defeat Long Tao. The simplest way was to let the insect queen, which had reached Diamond X/Fantasy V. It would produce 10 Diamond X/Fantasy 4 plasma caterpillars. It would produce another Diamond X/Fantasy V lightning gathering moth. It would let the lightning gathering moth gather the plasma spat out by the plasma caterpillars. It would unleash an attack that was far beyond the full power attack of a fantasy breed Fey. Long Tao's Fey needed to support the water during the battle. Water was an excellent natural conductor. The lightning gathering moth did not need to hit the body of Long Tao's Fey. As long as it hit the water, all of Long Tao's Feys in the water would immediately suffer heavy damage. However, Lu Jie did not choose to do so. This was because Lu Jie had been contracting the insect species carcinoma Fey for the past few months. To put it bluntly, he did not have many opportunities to use it in actual combat. To improve his combat skills. To conduct a celestial stairway duel on Star Web. It was also not convenient to use the insect species carcinoma Fey to attack the opponent. Therefore, Long Tao was an excellent whetstone for Lu Jie. It was an excellent whetstone. At that moment, Lu Jie saw a water body in the distance. It was spreading toward him. In the sky, there was a red and a blue deep blue dragon queen. It was like a pair of flashing red and blue lights that were abnormally eye-catching. Since Long Tao had opened up the water body, Lu Jie snapped his fingers again. It was an insect species carcinoma Fey that was like a light bulb and half the size of a palm. It appeared in Lu Jie's hand. This insect species carcinoma Fey was the one from before. When Lin Yuan was heading to the island outside of Raging Wave City, he was afraid that collecting a large whale would cause harm to other aquatic Feys. The insect species carcinoma Fey used was the nether floating hatworm. Chapter 1636. Back then, Lu Jie had used the larvae of the floating nether hatworm. All the wild Feys in the sea near the island were captured in one fell swoop. All of them were forcibly transported to the distant sea. Lu Jie issued an order to the queen UFO hatworm. Lay the eggs. In a moment, the entire body of water will turn into a concentrated sticky ball. Let the slime that the tentacles have turned into cover the entire area. Upon hearing Lu Jie's instructions, the UFO hatworm quickly curled up its body. Inside the translucent light bulb-shaped body, Lu Jie could see the traces of the worm fluid and energy. A large amount of insect protein was secreted and flowed into special insect organs. It passed through the worm's organs and continued to operate. One after another, translucent eggs appeared under the abdomen of the UFO hatworm. At this moment, a hurricane owlet moth flew out of the dimensional light moth's stomach. He picked up the eggs secreted by the floating twilight hatworm and flew towards the curtain of rain in the distance. The strength of this hurricane owlet moth was platinum I, normal. Such a powerful hurricane owlet moth had been produced. Lu Jie was not meant to be used in battle. As long as the hurricane owlet moths could carry these eggs and send them into the water, they would be able to survive. The hurricane owlet moth's mission had been accomplished. Riding on the back of the reef dragon shark, Long Tao saw Lu Jie from afar. Long Tao didn't know what tricks Lu Jie had. His understanding of Lu Jie came from the battle in the Great Night Convention's martial arena. At that time, Lu Jie had summoned the Blade Queen bee, the mycelium worm, and other insect-type carcinoma phase. These insect-type carcinoma phase were adept at fighting on land. That was why Long Tao had acted in the beginning. Thus, he consumed his spiritual energy to allow the Sea King Cretaceous dragon to fly on the ground and in the air. They were all covered with water curtains. Long Tao saw Lu Jie from afar. Lu Jie didn't move. Long Tao did not dare to attack immediately. The power of positional warfare was mainly in attacking and defending within a certain area. Long Tao planned to spread the water under Lu Jie's feet. He wanted to see Lu Jie's reaction before making his next move. Seeing the hurricane owlet moth flying towards him, Long Tao didn't care too much. Everyone's attention was on Lu Jie. He didn't even use his creation master ability to sense the hurricane owlet moth's grade. He just let the two deep blue dragon jellyfish pass through the rain. He attacked the hurricane owlet moth. The strength of the two deep blue dragon jellyfish had reached Diamond X/Fantasy 3. The raindrops fell on the platinum I normal hurricane owlet moth. The hurricane owlet moth was pierced by the rain and fell into the water. This hurricane owlet moth suddenly died, unable to withstand a single blow. Long Tao's expression turned solemn. But now, the eggs of the floating twilight hatworm had already entered the water. Not to mention that Long Tao had not figured out the situation. Even if they found out, it was too late. The egg of the floating twilight hatworm was about to hatch. He needed to absorb the water elemental energy in the water. This body of water was created by the Sea King Cretaceous dragon using water elemental energy. The water elemental energy it contained was much more than the water elemental energy in the real sea. The core of the water elemental energy was the Sea King Cretaceous dragon. It could be said that the eggs of the floating twilight hatworm hatched. It was plundering the water elemental energy controlled by the Sea King Cretaceous dragon. As an insect-type carcinoma fae, the dark floating hatworm was very dangerous to water bodies. It could be said to be destructive, even if the sea folk could tolerate the sea burial lotus flower. Nor could he tolerate the floating nether hat bug. In just the blink of an eye, there was a light blue floating object on the water body. These floating objects all had small sails. They looked like transparent islands floating on the water body. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon was trying to expand the water body. The depth of the water body was not considered deep. It was only about 20 meters. The tentacles of the larvae of the floating twilight hatworm could reach 500 meters deep in the sea. It was not impossible for them to reach 1,000 meters of the water body if they had enough energy. This caused the transparent tentacles of the floating twilight hatworm to be piled up at the bottom of the water body. Even the water flow was blocked. According to Lu Jie's instructions, the mother of the floating twilight hatworm commanded the larvae. By digesting its tentacles, it could produce a large amount of mucus. The Radiance 100 sequence members who were watching this battle saw what was originally a perfectly fine body of water had instantly turned into a sticky gelatinous pool. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon used its 8 dragon shadows to summon 8 bodies. They were all trapped in the gelatinous pool and could not move at all. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon spent a lot of effort to continuously use sea bite. Finally, it used Emperor Dragon's breath to break out of the water body. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon flew into the sky with a disgusting gel stuck on its body. No matter how the Sea King Cretaceous dragon swung it, it was very difficult to get rid of the gel. Once it left the water, it would quickly dry out. It made the Sea King Cretaceous dragon's movements abnormally slow. The transparent mucus stuck on its mouth made the Sea King Cretaceous dragon open its mouth. It would take a lot of effort. The uncomfortable Sea King Cretaceous dragon wanted to activate its exclusive skill, Extremity of Sea. It gathered water elements to wash away the mucus. However, it was immediately stopped by Longtime. Longtime could now see the origin of these things that had turned the water body into a gelatinous pool. It was an insect-type carcinoma Fey, the floating twilight hatworm. The larvae of the floating twilight hatworm had an extremely strong regenerative ability. Even if it was torn apart by an aquatic Fey, as long as there was enough water element energy, it would rapidly split and regenerate. Who knew if the broken tentacles of the larvae of the floating twilight hatworm were hidden in the gel? As long as there was a tentacle, the Sea King Cretaceous dragon would gather water element energy to wash its body. The tentacle would then take the opportunity to regenerate. If the larvae of the floating twilight hatworm were to wrap around its body, it would be very difficult for the Sea King Cretaceous dragon to break free after a large amount of water element energy was absorbed. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon's strength might be Diamond X/Fantasy 4. The insect-type carcinoma Fey, the floating twilight hatworm, was only Diamond X/Legend. In the natural world, insect-type carcinoma Feys that were silver and above developed. They were enough to bring disaster to a large city. Once diamond insect-type carcinoma Feys developed, even an Emperor-class expert would not be able to do anything. Every larva of the floating twilight hatworm would hatch. Their strength would be half of the insect queen's, and they would all reach diamond. In this small water body, there were at least 500 eggs. The Sea King Cretaceous dragon was able to escape from this gelatinous pool. It was equivalent to fighting 500 diamond Feys at the same time. Longtime had never faced Lu Jie head-on before. Longtime, who was facing Lu Jie now, suddenly felt it. The helplessness of the top faction's younger generation that had fought against Lu Jie in the martial arena. Right now, Longtime was planning to use his ultimate move. Otherwise, if this dragged on, who knew what new insect-type carcinoma phase Lu Jie would bring out to deal with him? Longtime waved his hand, and a giant whale that was twice the size of the Sea King Cretaceous dragon appeared. It appeared in midair. This giant whale was 80 to 90 meters long. There were many white areas on its black body. Chapter 1637. On its back was a 10-meter-long dorsal fin that looked like a halberd. After the giant whale was summoned, it immediately let out a roar. Longtime said, "Next, I will unleash my strongest attack." Lu Jie replied softly to Longtime, "What a coincidence, I also want to try out my new defensive method." While speaking, an insect-type tumor fey with a flat body and complicated patterns on its back appeared. It appeared in Lu Jie's palm. It was an insect-type tumor fey with a flat body and complicated patterns on its back. As soon as it appeared in Lu Jie's hand, Lu Jie's expression changed drastically. Xia Qing, who was watching the battle, said in a serious tone, "Demon flower gas shield bug." Another Diamond X/Legend insect-type tumor fey. Xia Qing glanced at Lu Jie with fear. Xia Qing had a deep impression of Lu Jie before. 2 years ago, Lu Jie single-handedly resisted the insect tide outside Frost City. They held on for half an hour. As a result, the insect queen's main fey was on the verge of death. It was Bamboo Monarch whom Xia Qing had invited for Lu Jie. Moreover, when he found out that the Bamboo Monarch was unable to heal the insect queen's injured origin, the insect queen's heart trembled. Xia Qing also went to her grandfather to find a way. Then, he contacted Supreme Chef in private. If it wasn't for the fact that the Moon Empress was in seclusion back then, Xiaqing might even go to the Leaning Moon Mountain for Lu Jie. Xiaqing had never told Lu Jie about this. Xiaqing was truly happy for Lu Jie that he could return to the Radiance 100 sequence. However, the strength that Lu Jie had just displayed was not something to be proud of. He had already surpassed the standards of his peers. At this time, Xiaqing suddenly thought. His grandfather had once told him that he was a disciple of the spirit guards. He was a youth that was adept at using insect-type carcinoma phase to fight. Xiaqing immediately matched Lu Jie with Night Leaning Moon's disciple. Each of Hui Yao's carcinoma phase was taken in by the spirit guards. Only Lu Jie, the chief guard's disciple, could do so. Only then would he be able to obtain so many insect species carcinoma phase. At this moment, Xiaqing seemed to understand something. Long Tao clearly knew Lu Jie. Why would Long Tao, who was ranked 3rd, challenge Lu Jie, who was ranked 30th? Long Tao must be doing Lu Jie a favor. Lu Jie's target should have been him. This caused Xiaqing's heart to be filled with a strong desire to fight. Even the Radiance 100 sequence number 2, Liang, couldn't do anything. Xiaqing did not regard him as her opponent. But now Lu Jie, the disciple of Her Holiness, had no way to escape. His strength was undoubtedly at the peak of Radiance's younger generation. In Xiaqing's opinion, this was the extent of his strength. Only then was he worthy to be his opponent. Ever since Lu Jie summoned the demonic flower gas shield bug. Xiaqing knew that there was no suspense in this battle. This was the gas released by the demonic flower chi shield bug. It would instantly grow a space flower with the same pattern as the one on its back. By devouring life force, each spatial demon flower could be strengthened. Each spatial demon flower was only the size of a fingernail. Lu Jie's insect queen could produce insect species phase in large quantities. It was a Diamond X/Legend demonic flower gas shield bug that bloomed in the space. It had the defense of a diamond rank. After the devil flower devoured a large number of insect species phase, the insect queen would produce. The strength of these demonic flowers would increase to the limit of a fantasy breed in a short time. His fist smashed into the barrier released by the demonic flower gas shield bug. His fist would hit at least 20 demonic flowers. Each demonic flower had the ultimate defense of a fantasy breed. If he did not shatter 20 fantasy breed ultimate demon flowers with one punch, he would not have been able to do so. It was impossible to break through this layer of defense. However, Long Tao summoned this wave killer whale to attack. It couldn't possibly be the size of a fist. Even though Long Tao was a Class 3 creation master, he wasn't able to recognize the demonic flower gas shield bug. The star web did not have any relevant information on these insect-type carcinoma phase. He did not have a good teacher to teach him. It was very difficult to have access to such knowledge. Long Tao issued a command to the wave killer whale. Activate exclusive skill, tidal elegy. Upon hearing this, the wave halberd killer whale's body instantly turned blood red. The blood red color continued to spread out. It spread to the reef dragon shark, the sea king Cretaceous dragon, and the 2 deep blue dragon jellyfish. Long Tao's contracted aquatic phase quickly fused with the blood-colored energy. It was supplied to the wave killer whale. The ability of the wave halberd killer whale's exclusive skill, tidal elegy, was to absorb the energy of other aquatic phase. It would add the energy of these aquatic phase to its body and release it. It would absorb this huge amount of energy. As the wave halberd killer whale's tail flapped in the air, the clouds turned into the shape of a huge wave and surrounded the wave halberd killer whale. At that moment, the demonic flower gas shield bug in Lu Jie's palm had already lifted its abdomen. It released a series of colorful gases into the air. These colorful gases formed a triangular pyramid-shaped shield. It protected Lu Jie in the middle. These multicolored gases formed beautiful demonic flowers on the barrier. Immediately after, the dimensional lamp moth's abdomen. A total of 200 flesh-mincing blade insects ran out. These diamond eye/fantasy eye flesh-mincing blade insects threw themselves into the demonic flowers one after another. They became the demonic flowers' food. They also increased the demonic flower's defense. These demonic flowers seemed to have a life of their own. After devouring the flesh-mincing blade insects, the demonic flowers moved away from the air shield. They would always be in front of Lu Jie. Long Tao had a solemn expression as he ordered the wave halberd killer whale. Use the Carnage Whale Fall. Crash over. Carnage Whale Fall was the wave halberd killer whale's diamond ability. This was also a suicidal attack method of the wave orca killer whale. Previously, the phantom hatworm's larvae had absorbed too much of the Sea King Cretaceous dragon's water-type energy. This made the wave halberd killer whale's suicidal attack. It was not the limit of Long Tao's attack. However, this attack still exceeded the limit of a fantasy breed fae. When Liang saw this scene, he sighed slightly. It seemed that no matter who won this battle between Long Tao and Lu Jie, he might not be able to keep his position as the Radiance 100 Sequences number 2. The strength that Long Tao had revealed now was something that he could not beat. Before Liang could sigh a second time, Liang suddenly widened his eyes. Liang saw that the originally calm sea of glue suddenly surged. A large number of transparent tentacles stirred the sea of glue. Immediately after, the tentacles drove the sea of glue, splashing huge waves that hit the sky. They went to meet the wave halberd killer whale. They blocked the wave halberd killer whale's path to Lu Jie. This scene appeared because the phantom hatworm's larvae were controlled by the larvae to launch an attack. Long Tao had only let the Sea King Cretaceous dragon escape from the sea of glue. He did not launch an attack on the sea of glue. Therefore, the phantom hatworm larvae did not die. An ordinary phantom hatworm would definitely not command the larvae to launch an attack in the air. They would only hunt for food in the water. Chapter 1638. However, the floating nether hat bug was under the control of the insect queen. Coupled with the intelligence of the diamond UFO hat insect, it was enough to make appropriate attacks and defenses. It could be said that everything in front of him. It was beyond Long Tao's understanding of the dark bat hatworm. Long Tao was completely unprepared. However, the wave halberd killer whale had already used Carnage Whale Fall. The energy in his body converged to a single point. Therefore, Long Tao could no longer stop the wave killer whale. Once the wave killer whale stopped, it would be very difficult for it to continue its attack. Therefore, Long Tao could only let the wave killer whale crash into the sea of glue wrapped in transparent tentacles. The sea glue itself was liquid and possessed an extremely strong buffering ability. The towering sea of glue was in front of the wave halberd killer whale. It formed a zone of rubber that was 500 meters long. The wave halberd killer whale crashed straight into the rubber. The floating nether hatworm's whiskers immediately wrapped around the wave killer whale's body. At this time, the wave halberd killer whale had become a huge flesh furnace. His body, which had turned into a furnace, was rapidly burning the energy in his body. Therefore, under the radiation of the wave halberd killer whale's energy, the entire area of the colloid was covered in ice. It quickly boiled over. The dark floating hatworm was an insect-type carcinoma fae that was very afraid of heat. The high temperature of the wave halberd killer whale's body instantly killed all the larvae of the UFO larvae. But after the larvae of the floating twilight hatworm died, everything was not over. The larva's body quickly turned into a gel. It made the entire area of glue even more viscous. Sensing the energy consumption of the wave halberd killer whale's body, Long Tao pursed his lips. The wave halberd killer whale was destined to break through this area. But after the breakthrough, the energy in the wave halberd killer whale's body would basically be depleted. Long Tao knew that he had lost. Even if the wave orca killer whale unleashed this suicidal blow, he was also destined to be powerless to reverse the situation. When the wave halberd killer whale broke through the gelatinous domain, its body was already faintly collapsing. The entire glue sea was filled with the heat of the wave halberd killer whale. It was steamed until only half of its original volume remained. At this time, the shield ladybugs that Lu Jie had placed on the tree began to move. One by one, they began to move. It charged straight towards the wave halberd killer whale. The strength of these 50 shield ladybugs had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy Eye level. 50 diamond shield ladybugs flew at full speed in a straight line. It was like a train, mixed with the roar of insect wings. It slammed into the wave killer whale's body. Using its insect body as a shield, it protected Wuxia. This was the reason why the Worm Queen had created these ladybugs. When Wuxia was weak, his fighting style was extremely effective. It won't make people feel anything. However, Wuxia was strong enough. 50 diamond/fantasy breed shield ladybugs were using their lives as shields. It was too shocking to watch. Each ladybug collided with the wave killer whale. It would turn into dust and scatter into the forest. He became a nameless skeleton. With each collision, the shield ladybug would greatly weaken the wave orca killer whale's attack. The carapace scraped off a large piece of flesh from the wave killer whale's body. Many broken insect limbs were buried in the wave halberd killer whale's body. When the 27th shield ladybug was destroyed, the wave halberd killer whale also exploded at the same time. The remaining 23 shield ladybugs had completed their mission. He turned around and flew back to Wuxia. In front of the demonic flower gas shield bugs, a stream of insects was formed. When any object came, these shield ladybugs would instantly rush over subconsciously. They would complete the mission that they were hatched from. The wave halberd killer whale's broken body was blown far away. However, in the end, the wave halberd killer whale couldn't touch it at all. The demonic flower gas shield bugs supported the demonic flower gas shield bugs. This scene made Longtime and all the Radiance 100 sequence members. They saw the gap between Wuxia and themselves. They understood Wuxia's strength. The 100 sequence members were silent at first, and then a voice sighed. He is worthy of being Chief Guard Ye's disciple. This sigh made those who didn't know what was going on. They knew Wuxia's identity. It turned out that Wuxia was Chief Guard Ye's disciple. Longtime's phase were all killed. Wuxia and Longtime teleported out of the test venue. Longtime sorted out his emotions and said with a smile, "The gap between us is really big." However, Longtime wasn't the slightest bit depressed. Longtime continued, "I think I should be able to break through the threshold of an A-rank spirit chi professional within half a year." Longtime didn't have any other meaning when he said this. Longtime and Wuxia were old acquaintances. Otherwise, Longtime wouldn't have said such words. Wuxia smiled and said, "Then I shall congratulate Big Brother Long in advance." Then I shall congratulate Big Brother Long in advance. Wuxia thought to himself. 1 year later, Zhongzhe, Gulang and the others. They should be able to become A-rank spirit chi professionals. He should be able to do the same. By then, he would be able to use the 12 cocoon demon embryos. He would be able to control at least 12 myth-breed insect species carcinoma phase. It could be said that after becoming an A-rank spirit chi professional, that would be his strong period. Wuxia was very clear about this. Lu Wenxing walked forward and reached out to pat Longtime's and Wuxia's shoulders. He then said, "Longtime, you might have passed this challenge and become the 30th in the list. But according to the rules, you will still have to choose your opponent according to your original position." Longtime nodded at Liang apologetically. After Liang challenged Xiaoqing once, he forfeited the other 2 chances. This meant that Liang didn't have a chance to challenge anymore. Longtime could now challenge Liang directly. He sent Liang to the 30th position. However, Longtime felt that it was a little inappropriate to do so. Liang, who didn't have a chance to challenge, was sent to the 30th position. He wouldn't have a chance to challenge anymore. Longtime simply chose the brave lion Leo, who was ranked 7th. He sent the brave lion Leo to the 30th position. When it was Leo's turn, he still had 3 chances to challenge. If he wanted to fight up, he could also fight up. After challenging Leo, Longtime realized Leo, who had fully displayed his strength, wasn't much inferior to Liang. He should be able to fight evenly with Liang. After sending the brave lion Leo down, Longtime challenged Liang. He was promoted to the Radiance 100 sequence's 2nd position. Liang became the 7th position. In response, Liang glanced at Longtime with gratitude. Along the way, there were still many people who challenged Xiaoqing. However, no one succeeded. Soon, it was Wuxia's turn. Lu Jie and his two brothers were talking about their situation. Bai Hao and Wang Fan were talking about their situation. Lu Jie didn't hide anything from his good brother. At that moment, Xiaqing walked to Lu Jie's side. She said to Wang Fan, "Can you lend me your seat for 5 minutes? I have a few words to say to Lu Jie." When Wang Fan heard that, he quickly moved to the side. Lu Jie's head was confused at this moment. He clearly didn't have any interaction with Xiaqing. He didn't know why Xiaqing was looking for him. Chapter 1639. Bai Hao kept blinking his eyes at Lu Jie and thought to himself, "Brother, you're being hit on by a beauty. Can't you show a little enthusiasm? This is really worrying. When can you find a partner like this?" Xiaqing could be called a beauty with a light complexion. Her facial features were flawless, and her figure was good. Why didn't you take the initiative to talk to Xiaqing? Xiaqing, who was sitting beside Lu Jie, looked at him. A faint smile appeared on her face. What Lu Jie had done back then was enough to be called a hero of the Radiant sect. Xiaqing had always been upset that Lu Jie was unable to heal the Insect Queen. Now, Lu Jie's Insect Queen was completely healed. He had obtained a new opportunity. This made Xiaqing rather happy. Lu Jie felt a little creeped out by Xiaqing's gaze. He was also guessing why Xiaqing was looking for him. At that moment, Xiaqing said, "Why don't we put our battle on next year's Radiance Envoy selection? Why don't we put our battle on next year's Radiance Envoy selection? It's enough to fight for the Radiance Envoy position." Lu Jie was slightly startled and immediately replied, "I'm not challenging you for the Radiance 100 sequence selection. I'm not challenging you for the Radiance 100 sequence selection. In addition, my target is not the Radiance Envoy, and I don't want to fight for it. I just want to become a member of the Radiance Light Knights, and that's enough. As long as I can become a member of the Radiant Light Knights, that is enough." As Night Leaning Moon's disciple, Lu Jie had received her meticulous guidance. In terms of strength, he was enough to fight for the Radiance Envoy position. Xiaqing did not know how many insect-type carcinoma phase Lu Jie had mastered. Lu Jie had just used an insect-type carcinoma phase, the floating hat bug, to defeat Long Tao. Lu Jie had displayed the demonic flower gas shield bug, but he had not used it at all. On one hand, it was because Long Tao was too cautious. He had given the floating hat bug larvae too much time to prepare. Otherwise, the floating hat bug alone would not have been able to stop the wave orca killer whale. On the other hand, the diamond/legend insect-type carcinoma phase was too powerful. On the other hand, a diamond/legend insect-type carcinoma phase was too powerful. Fighting Lu Jie was equivalent to facing a miniature natural disaster. The floating nether hat bug and the demonic flower gas shield bug didn't work together. However, if the few insect species carcinoma phase that Lu Jie controlled were able to coordinate perfectly with each other, they would be able to defeat Lu Jie. If that was the case, then the power it would display would not be as simple as it was just now. Xiaqing didn't want to compete with Lu Jie right now. On the one hand, it was because Xiaqing didn't like to fight in front of everyone. He felt that this kind of battle was very troublesome. Secondly, Xiaqing wasn't afraid of Lu Jie. Even if Lu Jie possessed at least 8 types of insect-type carcinoma phase, Xiaqing was confident of defeating him. The oxygen absorption frog was with Xiaqing, but it was not her main phase. Xiaqing was only afraid that her battle with Lu Jie would cause a blow to the Radiance 100 sequence members. That was why Xiaqing found Lu Jie. He said such words to Lu Jie. However, Lu Jie had said that he did not want to fight for the Radiance Envoy position. Xiaqing couldn't understand. Xiaqing looked straight into Lu Jie's eyes and asked, "Why? Shouldn't the Radiance Envoy seat be the goal of every Radiance 100 sequence member?" Lu Jie shook his head when he heard Xiaqing's words. After thinking for the past few days, Lu Jie understood why Master Night Leaning Moon didn't let him compete for the Radiance Envoy position. Indeed, if Lin Yuan and Radiance were to be separated one day and placed in front of Lu Jie would make the choice. Lu Jie would indeed choose the former. Such a mentality was obviously not suitable to be a Radiance Envoy. He represented the younger generation of radiance and protected radiance. Lu Jie said that the premise of fighting for the Radiance Light Knight's position was that Lin Yuan could become a Radiance envoy. If he became a member of the Radiance Light Knights, he wouldn't be able to protect Lin Yuan. Lu Jie simply didn't want to be a member of the Radiance Light Knights. Of course, Lu Jie definitely wouldn't say this to Xiaqing. In the end, Lu Jie only said 4 words. Everyone has their own aspirations. When Xiaqing heard Lu Jie's words, she looked at the other Radiance 100 sequence members. She said, "In that case, I can take the 3rd position. I'll leave the 1st position to you. However, I have a request. I hope that when you become a member of the Radiance Light Knights, you can give me an answer." Xiaqing's words were full of confidence. Lu Jie knew that Xiaqing's confidence was not as simple as words. Instead, it came from his confidence in his own strength. Lu Jie replied, "It's a deal. Even if you don't become a Radiance envoy by then, I'll tell you the reason after I become a member of the Radiance Light Knights." As he spoke, the figures of Lin Yuan, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and he flashed across his mind. Gao Feng was a pure support. He definitely could not become a Radiance envoy. Therefore, the Radiance envoy could only be contested by Lin Yuan, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and Xiaqing. Basically, the names of the Radiance envoys had been confirmed. Everyone was just fighting for a position. The conversation between Lu Jie and Xiaqing was very low. No one else knew what Lu Jie and Xiaqing were talking about. However, Bai Hao and Wang Fan, who were sitting at the side, were dumbfounded. Was this the communication between the big shots? He had easily swapped the 1st position away from him. At the same time, Wang Fan and Bai Hao were truly happy for Lu Jie. Lu Jie had just revealed his identity and strength. It made them feel rather unfamiliar with him. However, they were not unfamiliar with Lu Jie at all. Lu Jie was still the good brother who had gone on missions with them, endured hardships, and enjoyed blessings. When it was Lu Jie's turn, he chose to challenge Xiaqing. In the end, during the match, Xiaqing only used the oxygen absorption frog. Lu Jie also only used the demonic flower gas shield bug. He also used the insect-type carcinoma Fei and mycelium tapeworm in the Nyx assembly. Finally, after fighting for a while, Xiaqing admitted defeat. This situation was known to all the Radiance 100 sequence members. Just now, Lu Jie and Xiaqing must have reached some kind of agreement. Both of them hid their strength. No one knew what trump card Xiaqing had. However, Lu Jie did not reveal his insect-type carcinoma Fei, dead soul caterpillar, and blade queen bee. The blade queen bee produced blade worms and mycelium tapeworms, which were a perfect match. Lu Wenqing acquiesced to this situation in his heart. However, he looked at Xiaqing with a slightly strange gaze. Lu Wenqing had watched Xiaqing, this proud and arrogant little fellow, grow up. In Lu Wenqing's opinion, it was strange that Xiaqing was willing to concede to someone else. Lu Wenqing thought to himself as he looked at the handsome Lu Jie. Xiaqing couldn't have some thoughts about Lu Jie, right? Chapter 1640. If that was the case, that old man would probably have a headache. Lu Jie was unable to defeat Xiaqing. This made many Radiance 100 sequence members who were prepared to watch the show feel rather regretful. However, this was just a small episode. This was because every subsequent battle caused the Radiance 100 sequence's ranking to change. Basically, everyone who started a battle would be fighting against a target that they could restrain. Brave Lion Leo, who was originally ranked 7th, fought to 4th. He defeated Li Ong, who was originally ranked 4th. White Devil Daisy was a healing-type spirit chi professional. But from the original 18th position, it was pushed to 16th. Wang Fan's girlfriend, Unknown Flame Anna. He dropped from the 57th place to the 59th place. She sat next to Wang Fan with a depressed face. Wang Fan comforted her for a long time. Wang Fan dropped from his original position of 63 to 46. But in the end, he was targeted and fell to 55th. Compared to Wang Fan and Anna, things were not going well for him. Bai Hao's challenges were much smoother. He went from 87th all the way to 52nd. When he was challenged again, Bai Hao used a quick way to end the battle. He unleashed his strongest attack without the slightest hesitation. He had instantly killed the spirit chi professionals who had challenged him. This allowed Bai Hao to stabilize his position at 52nd. If Lu Jie was the biggest dark horse, the second biggest dark horse would definitely be Zhao Xiaochun. Zhao Xiaochun revealed the trump card that she had been hiding all this time. Source type life form, gluttony sandworm. From the original 21st position, he fought his way up to the 9th position. Shi Su, who was ranked 6th, maintained his original position. Raging Fang Duo went from 43rd to 46th, basically the same as before. This Radiance 100 sequence shuffle could be said to have exceeded many people's expectations. Now, the 11 people who were scheduled to be reassessed were ready. They were ready to defeat the newcomers in the assessment and fight again. Lu Wenxing, who was ranked 100th in the sequence, finished his challenge. He coughed lightly and said, "Sit according to the new order in tomorrow's 100 sequence assessment ceremony. For tomorrow's 100 sequence assessment ceremony, all of you will be seated according to your new positions." After speaking, Lu Wenxing left Star Web. He was ready to report the results. Then, it would be the last King's Court assembly before the 100 sequence. It had just rained from the sun. Next to the Radiance Sacred Hall, Lin Yuan was in the 100 Seedlings Tower. He originally wanted to enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone to enhance some phase. Unexpectedly, she received a call from Gao Feng. "Lin Yuan, where are you?" "I'm on the 8th floor of the 100 Seeds Tower. I've just finished chatting with the City Lord of Wind Mist City. I'll go and find you now." The top force that Gao Feng belonged to was rooted in Wind Mist City. In addition, Gao Feng had become Cicada Cry's disciple. It was normal for the City Lord of Wind Mist City to talk to Gao Feng. Even the city lords of other big cities would want to talk to Gao Feng. After all, Gao Feng's master was His Majesty Cicada Cry. What about the #1 leader of all the major cities? Since Gao Feng wanted to look for him, Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't refuse. Today could be said to be the last day of leisure before the 100 sequence. Lin Yuan revealed his building and room number. "I'm at the 13th floor of the 100 Seeds Tower, 226 on the 2nd floor." Previously, when Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng was going to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection, he originally wanted to bring Gao Feng along. But now, Gao Feng obviously didn't need him to bring him along. Gao Feng's Breeze Hibiscus, Spirit Spring Lily, and Yellow Spring Lily. Their strength had reached the Diamond X/Fantasy V level. In the Radiance 100 sequence selection, only the eliminated Radiance 100 sequence members would have Diamond phase. Even if the Breeze Hibiscus wasn't adept at combat, its grade was still there. The violent wind that it set off wasn't something an ordinary Fae could handle. Soon, someone knocked on Lin Yuan's door. As soon as Lin Yuan opened the door, Gao Feng walked in. With a sad face, he said to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, you have to help me. Lin Yuan, you have to help me. I heard from an he that the entire assessment will open 20-dimensional rifts within 3 days. It's equivalent to a battle for survival. Spirit Chi professionals are allowed to form teams. I can defeat ordinary opponents. But how can I be a match for an exotic beast tide?" Gao Feng now understood the use of his sacred source life form, the memory-eating 8 music box. It was obvious that he was the best fighting force against the Freedom Federation's envoys. Therefore, Gao Feng was afraid that he had bad luck. He would be eliminated by the exotic beast tide before encountering Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. He took out an ethereal jellyfish tentacle and handed it to Gao Feng. After entering the Star Web, if one brought along a Diamond Fae storage box, the items in the Diamond Fae storage box would also be scanned. As a 3-day battle for survival, food and water would definitely be allowed. Gao Feng only needed to bring the ethereal jellyfish tentacle. Lin Yuan would be able to roughly sense Gao Feng's location. He would then take the initiative to look for Gao Feng. During yesterday's conversation, everyone had shared their phase with each other. Gao Feng knew about Lin Yuan's ethereal jellyfish. His originally nervous heart immediately calmed down. Tomorrow was the day for the test. Gao Feng felt that there was no meaning in returning to his room. Lin Yuan's room was a single room and there were no other roommates. Gao Feng simply stayed in Lin Yuan's room and spent the night with Lin Yuan. The next morning, the sun hung high and there were no clouds. The Radiance 100 sequence test might be held on the star web. However, the opening ceremony before the Radiance 100 sequence test wasn't held on the star web. In the past, it was only on this day that people could see the reclusive 13 excellencies. Under Gao Feng's strong request, Lin Yuan wore a set of black spirit chi attire. This set of spirit chi attire was similar to the first time Lin Yuan fought as black. The spirit chi attire was more or less the same. However, due to Genius's bloodline, there was a transformation. The mask formed from the tool transformation had undergone a huge change compared to before. Back then, when Lin Yuan wore this mask, people thought that he was Black's fake fan. Today, even if Lin Yuan wore black clothes and the mask formed by Genius's tool transformation, no one thought that he was black. On the contrary, the people wearing the old silver masks were being hit on. When Gao Feng saw this scene, he forcefully suppressed his laughter. After holding it in for a moment, he looked at those people wearing silver masks and pretending to be black. They looked at Lin Yuan with disdain. Gao Feng couldn't hold it in anymore. He laughed heartily. In the end, he laughed until he coughed. This made Lin Yuan abnormally embarrassed. At that moment, there were two strange, enchanting, and elegant neighing sounds. It came from the horizon. It immediately attracted the attention of everyone who just came out of the 100 Seedlings Tower. Chapter 1641. In fact, it wasn't just the newcomers from the 100 Seeds Tower. Basically, the entire royal capital, even the places that were far away from the Radiance Sacred Hall. He could also faintly see two winding silhouettes on the horizon. A green figure and a white figure were pulling a pagoda. The pagoda was inlaid with moonlight stones that emitted brilliant moonlight. When the people in the distance saw this scene, they immediately cheered. These people knew that the giant azure and white snake was pulling the Fey carriage. Its name was Ling Hanyue Tower Carriage. It was the Moon Empress mount. People cheered as they looked up at the tower being pulled by the two giant snakes. These people knew that the Moon Empress, one of the 3 Class 5 creation masters, was seated in the tower. His Holiness, who had always been protecting Huiyao. However, the youths who had just come out of the 100 Seeds Tower, as well as the city lords of the major cities who were leading them, were all shocked. At this moment, compared to astonishment, there was more shock and fear. Lin Yuan had seen Ling Hanyue's tower car before. Ling Hanyue's carriage had always been placed in the moon stable of the Leaning Moon Mountain. The green and white snakes usually transformed into their human forms and guarded the entrance of the moon stable. The green and white snakes both had special bloodlines. When Lin Yuan had watched the two snakes change from human form to their original form, he had been shocked. Its body was only 1,000 meters long. But now, the two snakes were more than 3,000 meters long. Clearly, the strength of the two snakes had increased. Lin Yuan had been using Morbius to examine the two soaring serpents. Morbius couldn't find anything. This meant that the strength of these two snakes at that time was already at the undying level. Once a Fey's strength reached a certain level, it wouldn't be able to survive unless there was a huge improvement. Otherwise, the Fey's body and appearance wouldn't change much. As for these two giant greenish-white snakes, whether it was in terms of appearance or body size, they were completely different. Both of them had undergone tremendous changes. The wings on the backs of the green and white snakes looked rounder. But now, it had turned into a fin-like appearance. From the 7-inch position to the tail, the edges of the fins were still like lotus petals. He could tell just by looking at the wings. The green and white snakes' soaring serpent bloodlines were purified. The green and white snakes coiled around each other. The fins flipped outwards, forming a green and white lotus. Supporting the moonlight tower, there was a kind of cold aura. At the same time, the scales on the snake's body also changed. The snake scales from before had a kind of sharpness and wildness. But now, even the green snake, which was slightly more ferocious than the white snake, The scales on his body also became like jade. Lin Yuan estimated that the green and white snakes had most likely reached the eternal realm. The two hisses just now came from the mouths of these two snakes. The surroundings of the pagoda were covered with hazy moonlight. The moonlight was as long as 10 miles, stretching out tens of miles in the sky. Wherever the moonlight passed, the misty rain became hazy. Mystic Moon and Sang Yu stood on either side of the moon pagoda. It showed the status of the moon envoys. Xianyu wore a silver robe while Sang Yu wore a blue robe, even though the green and white snakes had retracted their auras. However, this shocking scene still surpassed the understanding of the younger generation. The city lords of the major cities also felt a tremor that came from their souls. This was the radiant moon empress. Even the spiritual carriage had the power to look down on the world. Lin Yuan had always been a character that appeared beside the moon empress. He had to visit the Radiance Palace from time to time. He had to have a knowledge quiz with the Moon Empress. He had also eaten a lot of the delicacies made by the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan had never seen the Moon Empress from such a perspective. Gao Feng, who was beside Lin Yuan, sighed. "Brother Lin, the Moon Empress's carriage is simply..." Before Gao Feng could finish his sentence, 7 piercing eagle cries rang out. The 7 purple-winged giant eagles soared up and instantly rose into the sky. Behind the 7 giant eagles was a castle-like palace. The architectural style of this palace was different from the architectural style of the Radiance Palace. Each of the 7 giant eagles had a wingspan of nearly 1,000 meters. They were arranged in a V-shape in the sky. Between each giant eagle's wings, there was a gorgeous blue-purple electric current. The power of the giant eagle's wings triggered the clear sky. A few dazzling purple electric currents flashed down. In front of the castle stood 3 old men. This aura directly collided with the Moon Empress's carriage, the cold moon pagoda carriage. However, under this power, the green and white snakes did not show any violent reaction. This made the 3 old men in front of the castle reveal a slightly puzzled expression. His Holiness Li Su took out the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage. It was to weaken the Radiance Holiness's aura. 7 immortal Divine Thunder Eagles pulled a Fey carriage. It was already considered the world's top equipment. The Freedom Federation had been waiting for the holiness of the Radiance Holiness to drive the Fey carriage. In the end, the first to drive the Fey carriage to the Radiance Sacred Hall was the Moon Empress. 10 years ago, the Moon Empress killed a holiness of the Freedom Federation. She destroyed a legacy of the Freedom Federation. Until now, this position had not been filled. It could be said that the Freedom Federation and the Moon Empress had the greatest hatred. Therefore, when the Moon Empress appeared in the cold moon pagoda carriage, the 3 old men immediately drove the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage up the mountain. They were prepared to give the Moon Empress a show of strength. At this moment, a cold female voice sounded from within the cold moon pagoda carriage. "Teng Bai, Tung Qin." After the cold female voice called out these 4 words, the bodies of the green and white snakes instantly lit up with a faint fluorescent light. A demonic feeling rose from the green and white snakes. In the sky, it formed a 10,000-meter tall green and white giant snake shadow. Following that, the 2 figures transformed in a flash. They turned into 2 women wearing green and white dresses. The 2 women opened their cherry lips and took a deep breath in the direction of the Divine Thunder Eagle carriage. Green and white halos instantly wrapped around these 7 Divine Thunder Eagles that were tainted with immortality. It was as if something was being pulled out of the Divine Thunder Eagle's body. The aura of the 7 Divine Thunder Eagles instantly stopped. Lin Yuan had just secretly used Morbius to inquire about the 7 Divine Thunder Eagles. In the end, he could not see their skills and exclusive skills. After Morbius woke up, when Lin Yuan was investigating these targets, Morbius itself could block the probing. It made it difficult for the probing targets to discover that they were being spied on. At this moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized he could actually see the data of these 7 Divine Thunder Eagle. At this moment, the grade of the Divine Thunder Eagle had fallen to Monarch Class 9 Creation 6th Tribulation. 3 stern shouts came from the 3 old men. Moon Empress, our Freedom Federation's envoy group came to the Radiance sect to observe the ceremony. Why did you attack the divine thunder eagle that was pulling the carriage? As soon as the three old men finished speaking, the cold female voice sounded again. According to the rules of the Radiance sect, any envoy group that goes to the Radiance Sacred Hall to observe the ceremony must go on foot. This is a warning. If there is a next time, Ting Bai and Ting Qing will not just absorb the grade and grade of these 7 eagles. Chapter 1642. When the 3 old men heard this, they were obviously dissatisfied. His Holiness Li Su's Fei carriage was now in trouble. When they returned, there was no way they could explain themselves. At this moment, the woman's voice suddenly turned cold. If you do it again, you'll die. The 3 old men had never imagined that the Moon Empress's 2 chariots would achieve eternity. Not to mention 7 divine Thunder Harrier eagles, even 700 divine Thunder Harrier eagles would not be able to withstand it. Nor could it suppress the 2 Frostflower Immortal vines that had attained eternity. No one understood the Moon Empress temper better than the Freedom Federation's experts. After all, the Freedom Federation's majesty had fallen in the hands of the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress was a person who would make a move if there was a disagreement. The divine Thunder Eagle carriage, which had just risen into the air, was forced to descend. The 3 elders of the Freedom Federation and the younger generation. Just as he was about to head to the Radiance Sacred Hall to attend the ceremony like the Azure Federation's envoy group, a hoarse voice echoed in the sky. Moon Empress, could my chariot Fei be flying above the royal capital? Are we going to all fall by a large rank? As he spoke, a man in a golden robe appeared out of thin air. It faced Ling Hanyue's carriage from afar. The Moon Empress replied coldly. The Freedom Federation hasn't come to the Radiance Association for 10 years. Have you forgotten about the Hui Yao's rules? If you can't remember the rules, I don't mind teaching you Hui Yao's rules. As she spoke, the Moon Empress released her aura. Ever since the Moon Empress obtained the lifespan rat, her strength had a breakthrough. After the incident, the Moon Empress' strength improved again. At that moment, the Moon Empress released her aura. It was the same aura he had when he first obtained the lifespan rat. Upon sensing the aura released by the Moon Empress, the long-haired man in the golden robe suddenly felt a chill down his spine. A fearful look appeared on his face. At that moment, the Moon Empress continued speaking. No non-citizens of the Radiance sect are allowed to step into the royal capital's sky. As the Radiance Federation's majesty, you are now flying above the royal capital. Are you planning to join Radiance? Or should he go down immediately? Otherwise, your actions will be regarded as a provocation to Hui Yao. 10 years ago, I think you should be very clear about why the people of your Freedom Federation died. The Moon Empress' words caused the golden-robed man's expression to change again and again. The people from the Hui Yao sect were the most law-abiding. The dispute 10 years ago had started because of breaking the Radiance Association's rules. Li Su knew that if he persisted, he would be able to stand in the air. The Moon Empress wouldn't hesitate to attack him. According to the aura that the Moon Empress had just displayed, he was on par with her in terms of strength. Even if the Moon Empress made a move, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, Hui Yao's 12 highnesses were still eyeing this place like tigers watching their prey. He couldn't be as foolish as that old fellow. He was fighting the Moon Empress on Radiance's land. He thought about his plan for coming to Radiance and his future preparations. A strange expression appeared on the man's face. Then, his figure disappeared into thin air. He appeared in front of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. At this moment, the Emperor of the Federation had arrived. However, on the faces of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission, there wasn't the slightest bit of excitement. After clashing with the Moon Empress aura, Li Su was at a disadvantage. This in itself was a very demoralizing behavior. Li Su did not care about this as he spoke to the people behind him. Follow me to the Radiance Sacred Hall to observe the ceremony. It was the exact opposite of the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. The young geniuses of the 100 Seedlings Tower all raised their heads in excitement. They looked up at Ling Hanyue's carriage. They all understood that the Moon Empress had gained the upper hand in the confrontation with the Freedom Federation's Highness. They all felt that they had gained a lot of face. However, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng's expressions turned grim. For this ceremony, the Freedom Federation's Highness had specially arrived. At the beginning, this Highness did not appear. He only appeared after the event. This showed that the Freedom Federation definitely had some other motives. Since they had mobilized a Highness, their motive would definitely not be simple. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng did not respond to the cheers of the other young geniuses. Compared to responding, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng saw further. The two of them understood very well how Hui Yao had fought for this face. It relied on strength. If the strength of the two snakes pulling the carriage had not increased, there was no way for them to resist the might of the 7 divine thunder eagles. Their master's strength was not strong enough. It was also impossible for them to force the Freedom Federation's Highness Li Su to retreat. The scene just now was like a farce. After settling everything, the huge snake coiled its body again and lifted the moon tower, heading towards the Radiance Sacred Hall. Not long after Ling Hanyue's carriage arrived. One by one, the spirit carriages headed towards the Radiance Sacred Hall. These spirit carriages were of different shapes and sizes. The weakest of the spirit creatures pulling the carriages had touched the immortal realm. The spirit carriages of different shapes and sizes displayed the majesty of the Highness. At the same time, it was also a visual feast for ordinary people. And at this moment, a young man who was originally at the end of the line. He passed Yan Ling, Kai Hua, and Yu Changjian. He passed Xian Yu, who was the Freedom Envoy. He arrived beside Li Su, who was the Highness. He opened his mouth and asked, "The Freedom Federation side, is everything ready?" Li Su heard this, looked at the young man standing beside him and said, "I'm already here. The Freedom Federation side is naturally ready. As for you guys, have you prepared everything that needs to be prepared?" When the young man heard this, his eyes were suddenly covered by a layer of gray mist. After a while, the gray mist dissipated. "It's all ready. The black mass cup of lashing the 6th page has already been poured. We're just waiting for the Freedom Federation to take action. We'll follow immediately. In addition, I've already mobilized all 4 horse riders. For this operation, we'll cover them with a layer of protection." After saying this, he did not give Li Su a chance to continue asking questions. This young man retreated to the back of the line. Yan Ling, Kai Hua, and Yu Changjian looked at this young man with a rather fearful expression. The others looked at this young man with abnormal fear in their eyes. All the way to the Radiance Sacred Hall. When they arrived at the entrance of the Radiance Sacred Hall, Li Su knew. How big was the entire Radiance Sacred Hall? Compared to the Radiance Sacred Hall, which had previously hosted the All-Star competition, the Radiance Sacred Hall was at least 10 times bigger than the Radiance Sacred Hall, which could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. The surrounding white marble pillars soared into the sky and pierced the clouds. It was like a dreamy arena. Thousands of white marble pillars surrounded the square. In the middle of every 2 white marble pillars, there was a connecting area. These connecting areas were the audience seats for the battle. In front of them stood 13 golden stone pillars. On these 13 golden stone pillars, there were 13 seats. This was where His Highness Saturday. Chapter 1643. There were 5 stone pillars that emitted 7-colored light. These 5 stone pillars were not any shorter than the 13 golden stone pillars. These 5 7-colored stone pillars were the places where the Radiance envoys sat. These 5 7-colored stone pillars were the places where the Radiance envoys sat. However, during the Radiance 100 sequence test, under normal circumstances, the Radiance envoys would not participate. The stone pillars were made into a 7-colored appearance, just like the color of a sacred source life form before it was contracted. This was enough to show how much Hui Yao valued the Radiance envoys. Or rather, it was how much it valued the inheritance. Below the 13 golden stone pillars and the 5 7-colored stone pillars, there were 10 stone pillars that emitted 5-colored light. The 5-colored stone pillars were slightly shorter than the 7-colored stone pillars. Every 2 pillars were clustered around a 7-colored stone pillar. These 10 5-colored stone pillars were where the members of the Radiance Light Knights sat. In addition, there were 100 silver stone pillars. These silver stone pillars were much lower than the 5-colored stone pillars. They were where the Radiance 100 sequence sat. However, during the Radiance 100 sequence selection, these 100 silver stone pillars did not have the chance to be filled at the start. This was because the 91st to 100th place had to participate in the selection. Before they had passed the selection and proved themselves, they had already lost the glory of being a Radiance 100 sequence member. Lin Yuan and Gao Feng stood together. As the crowd arrived at the Radiance Plaza, they spontaneously stood in neat square lines. At that moment, a bull's eyes suddenly sounded. A huge green bull stepped on green flames with yin and yang patterns flowing on its body. The power of yin and yang rose from the back of the green bull. On the back of the green bull sat a youth wearing a gold and red dual-colored robe. This youth's face had a long scar from the corner of his eye to the root of his ear. The long scar on the youth's face did not look the slightest bit sinister. Instead, it set off the youth's temperament especially resolute. Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius' True Data ability. He examined this cow species Fei. Yin Yang Bull, Peak Suzerain X/Myth 2. It was actually a myth breed Fei. Based on its grade and quality, this cow species Fei was actually able to transform into a human. This cow species Fei was obviously able to transform into a human form. A youth who was obviously less than 30 years old had such strength. He had even appeared in the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was enough to prove the identity of this young man. When Lin Yuan had been chatting with Gao Feng last night, he had received a call from He. He got to know He's senior brother, Lu Yifan, who was currently the 3rd-ranked Radiance Envoy. He would participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He was also in charge of the assessment. Anha was a brother complex. He had discovered this during the 5-person meeting with Lu Jie, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, Gao Feng, and He. It was impossible for Anha to give him a false message. Presumably, this young man riding the yin-yang twin bull was He's senior brother. In other words, he was the eldest disciple of His Holiness Changdeng. He was the 3rd Radiance Envoy of the current generation. The yin-yang twin ox landed firmly in the center of the 5 7-colored stone pillars. Seeing the spot where the young man had landed, the crowd below erupted into an uproar. The current 5 Radiance envoys lived in seclusion and rarely showed their faces. Lin Yuan had never had the chance to see it. It was conceivable that the others would not have the chance to see it. Lu Yifan stood on the rainbow-colored stone pillar in the middle. He looked down at the younger generation members who were preparing to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence test. Lu Yifan felt like he was looking at himself when he was 18 or 19 years old. Lu Yifan said loudly, "Everyone, please be quiet. As the 3rd-ranked Radiance Envoy, I wish everyone in advance that you will be able to showcase your strength to the fullest in the assessment. Next, let's welcome the members of the 100 sequence." As soon as Lu Yifan finished speaking, there were 90 auspicious beasts and jade elixir cranes riding on 90 members of the 100 sequence. It flew towards the silver stone pillar. The jade cinnabar crane, as a top-notch auspicious sign, was usually kept in the 100 Beasts Temple. It was only during the annual Radiance 100 sequence test. That was why these jade cinnabar cranes were used to transport the members of the 100 sequence. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Gao Feng suddenly realized something. Without his mask, Lu Jie stood at the top of the 100 sequence. Long Tao stood in 2nd place. Now Lu Jie was mentioned again. He was already going to address Lu Jie as the Radiance 100 sequence number 1, Heart of Insect Swarm Lu Jie. Lu Jie and Long Tao looked at the crowd. He wanted to find Lin Yuan and Gao Feng's location. Searching among tens of thousands of people was a difficult task in itself. Moreover, Lu Jie and Long Tao suddenly realized something. Many of them were wearing silver masks on their faces. After knowing that it was impossible to find Lin Yuan and Gao Feng, Lu Jie and Long Tao's eyes fell on Lu Yifan. Lu Yifan obviously knew Xiaqing, so he nodded slightly to her. Long Tao looked at Lu Yifan with respect in his heart. More than that, he yearned. Long Tao yearned to be a Radiance envoy. However, after seeing the strength of Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, Zhong Zhe, and the others, after knowing the position of the Radiance envoy, he would not have a chance. Therefore, Long Tao put his eyes on the colorful stone pillar behind Lu Yifan. Lu Jie was the same. However, Lu Jie and Long Tao thought completely different. It was not because Lu Jie did not have the ability to fight for it. But before that, Lu Jie understood what he truly wanted. Therefore, Lu Jie's mind was on the colorful stone pillar from the beginning. However, Lu Jie's eyes were fixed on the 7 colored stone pillars. He did not know where Lin Yuan would stand 1 year later. At that time, he must stand firmly behind Lin Yuan. For the members who had not yet entered the 100 sequence, most of these examinees' eyes fell on the 100 sequence members. Because of these people, the position under them. This was the goal that those examinees had to strive for. If they could break through, then before the Radiance 100 sequence selection ended, they would have the opportunity to ride on the back of the jade pellet crane. They would head to the silver stone pillar to feel the scenery on it. Lin Yuan's eyes looked around the Radiance 100 sequence members. He found that Zhao Xiaochun was the most ferocious. Zhao Xiaochun and Shi Su were a couple. Now, one was ranked 6th and the other was ranked 9th. In the top 10 of the entire 100 sequence, only Shi Su and Zhao Xiaochun were a couple. At that moment, Lu Yifan said in a clear voice with a solemn expression, "Next, please bring out the 4th of the 7 major weapons, the Mountain River State Bells." As Lu Yifan's voice fell, an ethereal bell chime rang out. Then, the bell rang continuously. A force field suddenly sealed off the entire Radiance Sacred Hall. At that moment, everyone saw a huge set of bells. They were suspended in the air above the Radiance Sacred Hall. The bells were bronze in color, and thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were engraved on them. Under each mountain and river, there was an earth vein. Each earth vein had a faint tendency to transform into a dragon. There was obviously no one knocking. However, the chimes continued to ring on their own. End of this chapter. Chapter 1644. He had heard his master, the Moon Empress. The Radiance Federation's 7 stabilizing treasures were sacred source life forms that had reached 10 stars and above. They were treasures made from dead bodies. It could be said that the 7 stabilizing treasures could affect the weather to a certain extent. But what was the use of the Mountain River set bells? Lin Yuan did not know. It seemed that it was related to defense. The interior of the Radiance Sacred Hall had become a world of its own. After inviting out the Mountain River set bells, Lu Yifan spoke. "Let's invite the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation's ambassadors to sit on the stone pillars." Following Lu Yifan's instructions, as the 4th Azure envoy, Lin led the Azure Federation's ambassadors. She chose a stone pillar and sat on it. But the Freedom Federation did not follow Lu Yifan's instructions. He sat on the beam of the stone pillar. Standing at the front of the Freedom Federation's team was Li Su, dressed in a golden robe. She stood motionless. Freedom Envoy Qianyu, who was standing behind Li Su, could only stay where he was. After the arrival of the Majesty, as a Freedom Envoy, he no longer had the right to speak. This was the difference between the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. At that moment, the Mountain River set bells chimes suddenly became loud and clear. The earth veins suppressed by the 108 bells suddenly glowed. The earth veins turned into dragons and raised their heads. The power of mountains and rivers pressed down on Li Su. The power of each dragon head was equal to that of a dragon's. It was like a real mountain and river. This power had reached the level of a celestial phenomenon. Li Su glanced at the aura that was coming at him. He lifted his feet and walked towards the stone pillar. Li Su was very clear about the power of the Radiance Federation's stabilizing treasures. If he wanted to resist, he had to show his strength. Once he showed his strength, it was impossible for the Radiance Federation's Majesty to not make a move. He thought about his purpose of coming this time. Li Su suppressed his temper and took the step. Qian Yu, who was behind Li Su, hurriedly followed. The Freedom Federation's majesty each had their own purpose and thoughts. No matter what Li Su did this time, as long as they could not achieve their purpose of coming to the Radiance Federation, they would definitely be punished afterwards. Therefore, from the bottom of his heart, Qian Yu did not wish for an intense conflict to occur. After Li Su took a step forward and walked towards the stone pillar, the might of the set of mountains and rivers of the god of earth and veil bells had been unleashed. It circled around in the sky. It returned to the raised dragon head of the Xianxia Sheiji bells. It made the Xianxia Sheiji chimes play an even more melodious melody. Seeing that the envoys from the two federations had already taken their places, Lu Yifan said loudly, "Let us welcome your majesties onto the stage." 13 fey carriages with different postures appeared in front of the golden stone pillar. 13 majesties, all dressed in regal robes, flew through the air. He walked up to the golden stone pillar. From the moment their majesties sat down, the Radiance 100 sequence test had officially begun. Lu Wenxing, who was in charge of the Radiance 100 sequence test, said, "Now, the Radiance 100 sequence test will officially begin. Everyone, please use your Star Web card to enter the Star Web and enter the teleportation gate in front of you to enter the assessment venue. This test will last for 3 days. After 2 days, the size of the examination venue will start to shrink. At the same time, dimensional rifts will open from time to time in the examination venue. Only 10 people are left. The test has ended. Fill in the vacancies of the 100 sequence from 91 to 100. The original Radiance 100 sequence members from 91 to 100 will participate in the test as contestants. That's all I have to say. Since the test will be conducted on the Star Web, none of your lives will be in danger. Therefore, there are no additional rules for the 100 sequence this time. Now let's begin." After Lu Wenxing finished speaking, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. He spoke to the 2 elders standing beside him. "Wenxiu, Wuxiu, the 2 of you will give each of the 2 envoys a temporary Star Web card. Make it convenient for the 2 envoys to observe the ceremony." After hearing Lu Wenxing's instructions, the 2 elders flew toward the stone pillar where the 2 envoys were seated. The envoys from the 2 federations were looking forward to it. They wanted to experience the wonders of the Star Web firsthand. After all, the Star Web was a product of the interaction between the 3 sacred source lifeforms. There was really no way to replicate it. At this moment, the most lively place was the Star Web. It could be said that as long as one had a Star Web card. At this moment, they had all entered the Star Web. Otherwise, they would be prepared to watch the Star Web's official live broadcast. Otherwise, they would stay in the live streaming room and watch familiar hosts broadcast the Radiance 100 sequence selection. If there was a contestant that they especially supported, he could even adjust the camera to focus on that player. The traffic in Tieba and various fan groups skyrocketed to more than 5 times the usual. The Grumpy brothers were already clamoring in the live broadcast room. "Why hasn't it started yet? Hurry up and start. I can't wait. I'm going to focus on Black today. I don't believe that Black won't use an ultimate move or summon a new Fae during the Radiance 100 sequence selection. I feel that Black might be the same as before." He didn't even reveal his strength during the duel with Lu Shuang. How could his opponent be as powerful as Lu Shuang during the Radiance 100 sequence selection? Didn't you see the competition rules published on the Star Web 2 minutes ago? A battle for survival. Black isn't just facing competitors, but also the dimensional rift. In the face of the exotic beast tide, how can Black do nothing? As a resident of Millstone Town, the test rules remind me of Black's plant Fae. In the memories of the people of Millstone Town, they will never forget the sea of flowers that collided with the insect tide and kept eroding it. I don't care about Black. My son is ranked 47th in the Stormy Wave 100, so I'm going to focus on my son. Lu Shuang had previously dueled with Black. She was very popular. During this period, Lu Shuang had been using Black's popularity to hype herself up. A large number of viewers had gathered in Lu Shuang's live streaming room. After looking at the rules for a long time, Lu Shuang said, "This test must be about teamwork." "The test this time must be a test of teamwork," Yi Zichen said. "It's impossible to resist the Class 2 exotic beast tide with an individual's ability. In the Class 2 exotic beast tide, there are already dimensional life forms that are comparable to Platinum Fays. Even if a person has a Diamond Fay, as long as the Fay isn't good at endurance, it won't be able to last for 3 days. Furthermore, the dimensional rift opens up randomly. If 2 dimensional rifts are close to each other, one will face the situation of being attacked from both sides. Therefore, it's impossible to form a small team to survive for 3 days. A large team must work together." End of this chapter. Chapter 1645. Thinking of this, Lu Shuang's heart thumped. He immediately understood that this test was a test of strength. It was also a test of human nature and the human heart. Lu Shuang might not have participated in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. He had never been a Radiance 100 sequence member for even a day. However, Lu Shuang was not weak. Back then, Lu Shuang didn't participate because she relied on a spiritual type Fey. It was a defense-type spirit chi professional who was attacking. It was simply too obscure, and it was easy for others to target it. In battle, other than consuming spiritual energy, one had to be extremely careful. It also consumed spiritual energy. Spiritual power could be easily replenished. However, it would take a lot of time for him to recover his mental energy. Therefore, for various reasons, Lu Shuang had given up several chances to take the test. But in the current environment, this assessment method completely shattered the limitations of healing-type and support-type spirit chi professionals. During teamwork, healing-type spirit chi professionals and support-type spirit chi professionals would work together. They were often more popular than power offense-type spirit chi professionals. If he had been in the same state when he participated in the test, he would have been able to do so. The exquisite rhinoceros deer could recover other phase spiritual energy. He would definitely be protected by his team. From Lu Shuang's perspective, the 100 sequence assessment was a revolution. It was undoubtedly a great success. Lu Shuang's father was a spirit guard. His mother was a secretary in Cloud Pool City. Lu Shuang had been exposed to the environment since she was young. It could be said that Lu Shuang was familiar with the current situation. They possessed far sharper judgment than ordinary people. Since a month ago, bellflower after bellflower bloomed in the sky above the Hui Yao sect. These platycodon flowers spewed out volcanoes and lava fell from the sky. A giant golden tree blocked the lava that was falling from the sky. Lu Shuang only knew about the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation. A serious conflict was bound to break out. The crux of the conflict was the assembly of 10,000 states. However, this collision had already caused undercurrents to surge. The news of opening a Class 6 Abyss dimensional rift and turning the Abyss world into a mirror world came too suddenly. There was no buffer time at all. This caused the prices of goods in the Radiance Empire to fluctuate violently within a short period of time. The Majesties didn't hesitate to release trillions of resources to compensate for the turbulence in the market, restore the stability of all prices. He also wanted to promote the establishment of mirror towns in the Abyss world. Lu Shuang keenly felt that the times had changed. The atmosphere had also changed. Originally, spirit chi professionals could do a lot of work. There was no need to face any risks while harvesting in the wild. They would be able to survive. It could be developed in the Abyss world to face the abyssal demons. If he was not careful, he would be severely injured. They might even die under the claws of the abyssal demons. The requirements of the Highnesses were 36 major cities, each of which was to build a mirror city in the Abyss world. On one hand, it expanded the Radiance sect's territory and increased the range of resources it could obtain. Fundamentally, it was to contain the rolling of resources. On the other hand, it was also filled with a sense of training. It allowed every spirit chi professional to experience the baptism of blood and fire. In such a situation, the Radiance 100 sequence members were seen by the High Holiness. Character and temperament were often more important than strength. A spirit chi professional's strength depended on their comprehension of willpower runes. The speed at which a spirit chi professional's rank increased. It was also the number of Creation Master's resources. The Creation Master was a mystical occupation that could be completed in just a few days. He had upgraded a normal Fey to Diamond. As long as a person had the ability to comprehend a willpower rune, the spirit chi professional's rank wouldn't be slow. With enough Creation Master resources, one would be able to become a prodigy. On the contrary, without the resources of a Creation Master, one would only have talent. It would still be difficult to play any fundamental role. After all, spirit chi professionals would rely on Fays in a duel. It wasn't the spirit chi professionals themselves. It could be said that as long as the High Holiness wanted to nurture them, it was enough to turn a mediocre person into a prodigy. Of course, this statement was a little too extreme. Using this method to select the Radiance 100 sequence members. It was far more comprehensive than using the duel method to select the Radiance 100 sequence members. Furthermore, to be able to become the last 10 survivors, it was impossible for them to not be powerful. In Lu Shuang's heart, she didn't have any expectations for Black's Radiance 100 sequence test. Black could defeat her. It could be said that this test was equivalent to Black directly determining a spot. Becoming a Sanctuary class expert in the Star Web duel would then participate in the 100 sequence test. In Lu Shuang's opinion, it was simply inhumane. However, most of the people in her live streaming room were Black's fans. As a result, Lu Shuang had to lock her perspective on Black's perspective in advance. Star Phoenix I, Shuangzi, what are you thinking? You haven't said anything. If you don't say a few more words, Poison Beauty's popularity will surpass yours. Poison Beauty has encountered Black 3 times in a row and has already obtained the title of Madam Black on Star Web. She has joked that she has an ill-fated relationship with Black and is a match made in heaven. Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty were both veteran live streamers. Lu Shuang knew how to use Black's popularity to hype herself up, and Poison Beauty naturally knew this well too. In addition, Poison Beauty had been a live streamer for a period of time. Her glib tongue had become even smoother than before. In the live streaming room, Poison Beauty would often reveal some specious details. During the duel previously, Poison Beauty had indeed fought against several of Black's Fays before. At that moment, Poison Beauty was talking in the live streaming room. Let me tell you, don't doubt what I say. Black's bluebird species Fey is definitely light type. During the duel, I was killed by that blue bird. When we were fighting before, I felt the ground beneath my feet binding me. During the duel previously, I felt that the ground under my feet had a binding feeling. I think it should be done by Black using his sand element type life form. From time to time, Poison Beauty would ask the administrator to ban those accounts that were messing around. From time to time, Poison Beauty asked the administrator to ban those accounts that messed around. Now, her live streaming room could be said to be a cornucopia. Because 1 or 2 smelly fish had messed up the entire pot. Because of 1 or 2 smelly fish, it messed up the entire environment. Upon hearing Star Luanai mention Poison Beauty, Lu Shuang specially checked. She found that Poison Beauty's current popularity was second only to her. She was even more popular than those retired 100 sequence members who started live streaming. Lu Shuang hurriedly used her best move. She was prepared to continue analyzing Black's 8-tailed spirit cat. The information about Black that Poison Beauty mentioned could be found in the post. However, she had personally faced Black's 8-tailed spirit cat. She was the only one who had personally experienced it. Before Black summoned the 8-tailed spirit cat again. What she said was the closest answer to the truth. However, before giving Lu Shuang a chance, she suddenly realized. An image appeared from Black's perspective. Chapter 1646. At this moment, the image was focused on a young man dressed in black spirit chi clothes. The audience in Lu Shuang's live streaming room was in an uproar. This isn't going to kindergarten. My husband finally appeared. Looking forward to it. Husband, quickly summon the Fae and let me have a good time. Girl who won't step on ants. Black's perspective has appeared. The Radiance 100 sequence test has finally begun. This test will last for 72 hours. It's too exciting to watch for 72 hours. Free like the wind. Why isn't Black moving? Black, quickly move. I can take it. About your worries, Black's girlfriend fans, please watch your words and deeds. As Black's male mother, I don't agree for my son to be with you. The live streaming room was filled with comments. As they kept scrolling, everyone noticed a problem. It was the mask that Black was wearing, and everyone's impression of the mask that Black should be wearing. It was completely different. This made the people who noticed this scene have a question in their hearts. Could it be that Black knew that today was the Radiance 100 sequence test? Did he deliberately wear a more exquisite mask? The mask that Black had worn previously was a plain silver mask. There were 3 shallow patterns on it. It was very easy to imitate. As long as you took out $500 Federation dollars, you could find a blacksmith to make one. This was why Black's fans could easily imitate Black. It didn't require any capital to imitate Black. Black's mask had 4 patterns on the left and right. These patterns were especially elegant, like silk fluttering in the wind. When Lu Shuang noticed this, her pupils shrank. Was Black's mask made of a tool transformation fey? There had always been a controversy on the Star Web. Lu Shuang firmly believed that there was a problem with Black's mask. In the face of the exquisite rhinoceros deer's attack, Black's mask lit up. Lu Shuang felt that with Black's low-key personality, it wouldn't be because of the Radiance 100 sequence selection. It would change the mask into a new style. When the bloodline metamorphosed and the strength increased, phase that could be transformed into tool transformation. It wouldn't change the type of tool transformation. However, it could make the tool transformation item more exquisite. The transformation of the mask that Black was wearing perfectly matched this point. Lu Shuang was already certain in her heart. Black must have used that feline fey to defeat him back then. It had become stronger. As Lin Yuan didn't move, Lu Shuang's audience was puzzled. In fact, it wasn't just Lu Shuang's audience. The audience in the other live streaming rooms that locked onto Black's perspective were also puzzled. Black seemed to be sensing something. His face was deep in thought, as if he was sensing something. This caused a lot of viewers to quit the live streaming room. Tool. Noticing that the others were looking at them, they quickly took action. This caused the viewers who returned to the live stream channel to watch the live stream. They all complained in the bullet screen. Confused Bean, no way. Black won't think that he's strong, and no one will find trouble with him. He'll just stand here until the end of the test. World weariness. If Black takes off his mask, I can consider eating off his face for 3 consecutive days. But Black is wearing a mask, so there's really no point in looking at it. T Black. But, you, double quotes, life's master, SG, S life, you, T's you teach you. Lin Yuan was using the ethereal jellyfish to sense Gao Feng's location. A moment later, Lin Yuan felt Gao Feng's general location. Gao Feng wasn't close to him. For every spirit chi professional participating in the test, the 100,000 square kilometer test venue would be extremely large. It was an unknown region for every spirit chi professional. According to what His Holiness Wen Cheng said, 3 hours after entering the examination grounds, the first dimensional rift was about to open. After that, another dimensional rift would open every 2 hours. In about 1.5 days, all 20-dimensional rifts would open. Therefore, everyone would be randomly teleported here. They wanted to find a companion in the shortest time possible. When the female examinee saw Lin Yuan, she was stunned. Her eyes lit up. He hurriedly urged the 2-headed inferno hound under him to run over. She invited Lin Yuan first. You should be Black's fan too. Ha, you're a fake fan. You even chose the wrong mask. But your mask is really nice. My name is Chin Lu. Let's go find the other candidates. I believe you should have thought it through. We have to be united for this test. As for the rest, let's wait until we can survive first. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. It seemed like this candidate named Chin Lu had thought it through. With the current test method, there was no need to fight and kill at the beginning. Every candidate was an opponent and also a companion. During the 3 hours when there were no dimensional rifts, the test was about leadership. In a team, there would definitely be a person whose words would be the deciding factor. When the first dimensional rift opened, the dimensional life form tide would split the venue. Every 2 hours, the dimensional rift would continue to split the battlefield. The appearance of the dimensional rift had turned this test into a large-scale war flag game. However, compared to a war flag controlled by others, every chess piece here had their own thoughts. They were all acting on their own. Lin Yuan shook his head at Chen Lu's invitation. Chen Lu glanced at Lin Yuan when she saw that he wasn't willing to team up with her. Without any hesitation, he urged the two-headed inferno hound beneath him to run into the distance. From the moment Lin Yuan shook his head and rejected her, Chen Lu treated Lin Yuan as a fool. She thought that Lin Yuan didn't understand what to do in this test. Wasting time in front of a fool wouldn't do her any good. In addition, she didn't understand Lin Yuan's strength. Otherwise, Chen Lu would want to ride her two-headed inferno hound to get rid of Lin Yuan. Chen Lu, who had already run far away, sighed in her heart. After entering the test venue, he foolishly didn't summon his Fae immediately. Such a teammate would only be a hindrance. Chen Lu didn't realize it. However, the audience in the livestream room who was watching Lin Yuan discovered something. An amber button fell from Lin Yuan's wrist to the ground. It turned into a wisp of sand and burrowed into the ground. This made the audience in the livestream room brighten up. They knew that Lin Yuan had used the sand elemental source-type life form. Lin Yuan was also planning to embark on his journey. He was going to find Gao Feng first. Immediately after, everyone was dumbfounded. Thousands of black feathers shot out from the ground. The black feathers were like a storm, shrouding black within. Then, 4 pairs of black wings formed behind black. With a flap of the wings, black flew into the sky. Chapter 1647. When Lin Yuan first logged on to StarWeb, he was 177 meters tall. He had consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and geocentric jade milk. In addition, Lin Yuan was still growing at the age of 18. Now, Lin Yuan's height was more than 8 meters. It was around 81 meters. Such a height could basically be considered the most optimal height for a male spirit chi professional. The 4 pairs of wings on Lin Yuan's back were of different sizes. The main purpose of the 4 pairs of wings was flight and protection. The shape of each feather was sculpted by Lin Yuan by observing Gray's feathers. Therefore, the wings on Lin Yuan's back. They were somewhat similar to crane wings. The 4 pairs of wings were arranged in an orderly manner with different sizes. When flapping, the wings coordinated with each other. It was the most mechanical design. In addition, it had a trace of crane wings' elegant charm. Such wings were simply too cool. In the various live-streaming rooms, the audience couldn't help but exclaim from Lin Yuan's perspective. Sunlight, what the hell? Wings appeared on Black's back. Did Black fuse with a certain flying-type Fae? Freezing rain. My husband is so handsome. I feel like I'm being carried by my husband in circles in the sky. I love tigers. This was because Black had never revealed this move during their StarWeb duels. It seems like Black finally revealed something new during the Radiance 100 sequence test. Heart of Dream. I don't think Black has fused with Faes that can be possessed with exclusive skills. Black has only grown wings, and there are no other changes in its other parts. Did you see those black feathers just now? Did they drill out from the ground? I think these black feathers are likely to be the creation of that amber button that turned into fine sand. Speechless, I'm not guessing. I'll wait for the answer on the forum later. In 10 minutes, the big shots will find out how Black's 4 pairs of wings came about. Lin Yuan flew toward Gao Feng's direction. Along the way, he saw many contestants participating in the test. At the same time, Lin Yuan rode on the blazing twin-headed hound. Chen Lu looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. Lin Yuan didn't choose to team up with anyone other than Gao Feng because he had his own considerations. Firstly, Lin Yuan was confident. As long as there was a living spirit chi professional, He would definitely be able to survive for 3 days. Therefore, Lin Yuan's choice of teammates was equivalent to being unfair to the others. For every participant in the Radiance 100 sequence test, the Radiance 100 sequence test would be extremely difficult. Who knew how long they had been preparing? It was an extremely important turning point in his life. These people had worked so hard until now. He challenged himself all the way in the big city he lived in and became one of the city's 100 seedlings. It was all for the glory of the Radiance 100 sequence. Lin Yuan, who worked hard day and night, could understand this the best. The efforts of these contestants could not be wasted. Previously, when Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, Gu Lang, Zhong Zhe, and he and Gao Feng were conversing, Anke had suggested it before. It was better to let Lin Yuan and Gao Feng take all the powerful contestants. All of them were eliminated first. Only 8 with average strength were left. After that, they would have to face the Freedom Federation's diplomatic mission. This could be done in a different way. This was to preserve the Radiance Federation's top talents to the greatest extent. After Anhe put forward his idea, Lin Yuan decisively rejected Anhe's proposal. Firstly, it was in front of everyone from the Radiance Federation and the envoys of the 2 major federations. He single-handedly destroyed the assessment of the 100 sequence. It was equivalent to throwing the Radiance 100's face. At the same time, this Radiance 100 sequence assessment would become meaningless. Even for many years after that, the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor. It would all be reduced. Lin Yuan was not qualified to erase the tens of years of hard work of these contestants. He could not damage the Radiance 100 sequence's sense of honor. The Freedom Federation's original Freedom Envoy led the team, but now it was led by His Holiness. Whether it was the Freedom Envoy or His Holiness, they were not fools. If he did that, the Freedom Federation would feel that. The Radiance 100 sequence had a conspiracy against the Freedom Federation. The gains would not make up for the losses. This assessment was what Lin Yuan wanted to do. It was to bring Gao Feng as an outsider and survive for 3 days. To become the last 2 survivors out of the last 10 would be enough. After the source sand burrowed into the ground. It burrowed directly into the ground 50 meters below the ground. Then, 50 meters below the ground, it kept smashing the rocks and soil to create a large amount of sand. The deeper the ground, the slower the sand creation speed. The more spiritual power it needed, the more it consumed. But Lin Yuan still chose to do so. Part of it was because of the geological exploration. 50 meters underground in the assessment space was already full of rocks. The sand formed by smashing the rocks would be stronger than the sand formed by soil. On the other hand, if it was in a random dimensional rift, there happened to be a Class 2 underground rift. It was a full 50 meters thick support, and the ground would not collapse. Now, the source sand strength was Diamond X/Fantasy V. The speed of the source sand's sand creation was extremely fast. A wisp of sand shuttled back and forth. In just a few seconds, it could grind the rocks within a 10 square meter range. The yellow sand continued to spread in the direction Lin Yuan flew. The Star Web audience had no way of knowing about this scene. Only Mystic Moon, Space Elder, and another holiness raised their eyebrows in surprise. But the 3 of them did not say anything. However, he focused more on Lin Yuan. Space Elder and the other holiness had always known. Mystic Moon had specially protected Black's information. At such a young age, he could already have a Diamond X/Fantasy V source-type life form. Black's identity was clearly the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan. Otherwise, he would not have spent so much effort. The audience who were waiting for the post on the forum. Soon, they saw the post from the Class 4 Creation Master, Master Duanli. During this period, Master Duanli had become Black's researcher. She had been studying Black's Fae. She was exploring Black's secrets. Then she would share her findings on the Star Web. As time went by, Master Duanli's reputation grew. She was living more and more like an internet celebrity. Many people jokingly called her the fallen Class 4 Creation Master. Master Duanli did not care about this. She was only becoming more and more curious about Black. In Duan Li's opinion, such a young man had such strength. It was not normal. Duan Li, according to my observations, these 4 pairs of wings are definitely not because black has fused with the Fae. If I am not wrong, the composition of the wings should be the day and night spirit silver, a silver spiritual material. If black channeled spirit chi into it, the wings should be able to turn white. So according to my speculation, either black's sand elemental life form has the ability to swallow metal and change its shape, or black has a Fae or source-type life form that can manipulate metal that controls the entire pair of wings. End of this chapter. Chapter 1648. When they saw Master Duan Li's post. The Star Web users who came to watch the drama all had a preliminary understanding of black's wings. As long as one's brain was not damaged, they would not question a Class 4 Creation Master. With the knowledge of a Class 4 Creation Master, it was impossible to predict a young genius like Black. It was an Emperor-class myth-breed Fae. Even a Class 4 Creation Master could analyze it. The netizens couldn't help but pay attention to Master Duan Li's account. Master Duan Li seemed to have her eyes on Black recently. She had been investigating Black's information. No matter how shocking Black's performance was, as long as they paid attention to Master Duan Li's post, they would be able to understand Black's Fae immediately. After Lin Yuan met Chen Lu, he took off. During this period, spirit chi professionals would occasionally discover Lin Yuan. They would chase him on their flying phase. However, Lin Yuan's flying speed was extremely fast with the source sand. While Lin Yuan was flying at high speed, if he really wanted to investigate, he was even faster than the Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow. Therefore, even a candidate with a flying Fae could not stop Lin Yuan. Gao Feng had never had a flying Fae. From the moment he was teleported to the test venue, 2 candidates appeared beside Gao Feng. These 2 examinees sent out invitations to Gao Feng. Gao Feng knew that these 2 candidates wanted to have the right to speak. Which side he was biased towards? Which side would have the greater right to speak? Gao Feng and Lin Yuan had no intention of forming a team. What Gao Feng needed to do now was to wait for Lin Yuan to locate him through the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Therefore, Gao Feng rejected these 2 candidates' invitation. These 2 candidates did not recognize Gao Feng's identity. The slightly fatter candidate was prepared to go first. However, this skinny, broad-faced examinee had a strange aura. He invited Gao Feng again. He even summoned his other 2 Faes immediately. The 3 wolf species Faes growled at Gao Feng from time to time. This man was indifferent to the reactions of his 3 wolf species Faes. It was obvious that he wanted to use this method to threaten Gao Feng. Gao Feng was not the kind of person who could accept threats. Born in a top faction, Gao Feng, who had been pampered since childhood, had a sense of pride. Gao Feng rejected directly. I have no interest in joining. Gao Feng's actions caused this examinee's mental state to collapse. Every contestant who came to participate in the assessment had their questions reviewed in advance. As a prodigy who stood out from his peers, he did not have a high IQ. But at the very least, no one was stupid. This examinee understood very well that at this stage, how important every minute and every second was. He had wasted so much time on this examinee. However, this examinee didn't want to leave with him. Then wouldn't his time be wasted? If he could get the right to speak at the same time, he would have someone by his side. When he met the 3rd person, only then would it be easier to pull a 3rd person into the group. Because in times of crisis, even playing around would breed herd mentality. Otherwise, he could only wait to be roped in by other gangs. Once the dimensional rift in the test space truly opened up, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Those without the right to speak would become pawns in the army. They were sent to the front lines to fight dimensional creatures. It would be very easy to be eliminated. Therefore, he wanted to fight for the spot in the 100 sequence. Gao Feng had become the target of the man in front of him. It was also because of this that even if the young man knew that his actions would be observed, however, he still chose to do so. Brother, let me tell you. If you don't follow me, I can only eliminate you first. The young man was selected from the Golden Edge City and was ranked 11th in the Golden Edge 100 sequence. He believed that in this assessment, he was at least stronger than 20% of the contestants. The confidence accumulated over the years allowed the young man to face Gao Feng. He did not feel the slightest bit of fear. Gao Feng was only 24 years old this year. In addition, Gao Feng looked young. He looked no different from a 21 or 22-year-old youth. From the conversation just now, the young man knew that Gao Feng was a support-type spirit chi professional. Therefore, he dared to bully Gao Feng. When Gao Feng heard this, he frowned. Gao Feng knew very well what the young man in front of him wanted to do. These three wolf beasts had been roaring non-stop since they were summoned. It made Gao Feng very annoyed. However, Gao Feng did not directly attack this young man. Instead, he said, "I don't plan to team up with you, and you don't have to use my 3-phase to threaten me. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." When the young man heard this, he was stunned. He did not understand what Gao Feng was thinking. "You're a support-type spirit chi professional, and you're acting arrogant in front of me. I'm a power offense-type spirit chi professional, and I'm at such a close distance. At such a close distance, I'm the nemesis of support-type spirit chi professionals and healing-type spirit chi professionals. In addition, there are only the two of us now. If you don't want to team up with me, do you have a better choice?" The young man was prepared to see if his phase attacked. Could Gao Feng still be so unyielding? Thus, the young man ordered one of his wolf beasts. "Black rock bone shattering wolf, go bite him. When he agrees to go with us, then you can let go." The moment this young man gave the order, a huge green and white hibiscus appeared in Gao Feng's hand. The hibiscus's flower swayed. The violent wind blew the young man and his 3-phase far away. Gao Feng planned to give this young man a chance. Thus, he did not kill. Otherwise, the violent wind caused by the Diamond X/Fantasy V Breeze hibiscus. It was enough to tear the gold-black rock bone shattering wolf apart. Gao Feng knew that Lin Yuan wanted to find him and sensed the location of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. Thus, Gao Feng stood in place and took out the ethereal jellyfish's tentacle. It did not move at all. Gao Feng was sure that within 3 hours, before the dimensional rift of the test space opened, Lin Yuan would definitely be able to find him. Through Lin Yuan's perspective, according to Lin Yuan's flying direction, Cicada Cry knew that Lin Yuan was going to find Gao Feng. Seeing Gao Feng's action, Cicada Cry nodded. Under the other party's aggressive pressure, Gao Feng still forgave him. It was enough to see Gao Feng's magnanimity. However, such a character did not need to be polished. There was really no way to achieve great things. Along the way, Lin Yuan could be said to have attracted the attention of the majority of the audience. The other candidates were busy forming teams. They were constantly interacting with each other. Even the leaders of the two teams would communicate with each other. They wanted to merge the teams together to face the exotic beasts tied together. But what's wrong with Black? Why did a proper test become like a trip? End of this chapter. Chapter 1649. The Radiance 100 sequence had changed from the original private assessment. It had become a live broadcast for the entire population. The actions of every member of the 100 sequence would be exposed to the eyes of the public. There were only tens of thousands of candidates in total. But, Hui, Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1649, The Controversy of Black. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1650. The length of these 3 pairs of wings was more than 3 times the original length of Black's wings. As the huge black wings suddenly flapped, Black's speed increased again. Looking at Black disappearing without a trace, Chao Tianlin reached out his hand and touched his big bald head. A little. Beast Evolution Merchant, Chapter 1650. Victory, joy for the world. Defeat, sorrow for the world. Currently typing, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.